Chapter 1349, Amazing Duan Lingfeng. Chapter 1349, Amazing Duan Lingfeng. The vicious man in a black robe had obviously underestimated how powerful Duan Lingfeng was. Shoo! Duan Lingfeng waved his sword, cutting half of the palm of the black-robed man. Then Duan Lingfeng continued his attack, intending to cut the man's head. Damn it! The black-robed man quickly jumped away and avoided another attack after his palm was cut. He looked at his wounded palm and frowned, and Duan Lingfeng held his sword and stood in the heavens. Idiot! Duan Lingfeng, you would die now if I recovered my full strength. The black-robed man felt nervous when hearing those words. Jian Wushuang was also shocked by Duan Lingfeng's power. Jian Wushuang had heard about Duan Lingfeng's incomparable power. If Duan Lingfeng could recover his full strength and totally unleash his soul power, he would be invincible among the universe gods in the third heaven. Now, he had just 60% of his power. But despite that, Duan Ling cut half of a palm of one man from Sky-devouring clan. The black-robed man said, "So, before I eat Jian Wushuang, I had better clear all of the obstacles in the way." He smirked and immediately recovered his palm, leaving no scars at all. Then, after a second of simmering, his power skyrocketed, and his figure enlarged and covered Duan Lingfeng. But Duan Lingfeng was indifferent. He strode forward. The seventh skill. Duan Lingfeng waved his sword again. The sword attack was still done briefly and silently. Bang! But Duan Lingfeng was hit by the black-robed man's power, and he had to jump backwards. The black-robed man laughed. "Your skills are just mediocre. Nothing to me." After being attacked, the robed man kept focus and exercised his real power. His 100% power. But Duan Lingfeng was still calm. His eyes sent out an appalling light. "Come on!" Duan Lingfeng shouted. The eighth skill. Duan Lingfeng waved his sword again. Another blood sword light. The heavens darkened. Two opponents rushed toward each other. Bang! The heavens blared again. Their figures collided violently with each other, and they both jumped backward. Duan Lingfeng now felt a strong sense of excitement. A feeling of aggressiveness rose within his body. "Not bad," the black-robed man said. "You are better than other universe gods in the third heaven that I have met. So, take my next attack." The ninth skill. Duan Lingfeng shouted resoundingly. Then, within a second, Duan Lingfeng waved his sword again and accumulated an unimaginable power. "Another one?" The black-robed man was shocked, and he didn't underestimate Duan Lingfeng anymore. He felt that although Duan Lingfeng's breath hadn't recovered, he still had incomparable power. And the last two attacks were more powerful than the previous ones. Shoo! Another blood light. The whole heaven was silent. A dead silence. The black-robed man experienced a rising force within his body. His power and figure exploded, and he turned back into his original shape. His original shape looked like a giant gorilla, scary and savage. After turning into his frightful original shape, he rushed to Duan Lingfeng with all of his power. Bang! However, the black-robed man was hit back by the collision with Duan Lingfeng. Now the black-robed man was at a disadvantageous position. But Duan Lingfeng was still standing stably in his original place. Wow! Looking at Duan Lingfeng, Jian Wushuang was impressed and even shocked. King of Venomous Worms said to Jian Wushuang, "I have told you that Duan Lingfeng's power is at a further level than you might imagine." "What level?" Jian Wushuang didn't understand, but he knew that he himself was still far from that level. Bang! The black-robed man got furious and impatient. His original shape continued to grow while his power and breath kept rising. He generated an appalling evil spirit, creating an evil storm in the heavens. Jian Wushuang felt more pressure from the black-robed man. The black-robed man is by no means an ordinary sky-devouring clan descendant. His secret skills are also powerful. King of Venomous Worms said, although Duan Lingfeng was powerful, he hasn't recovered to his full strength, and the black-robed man now has an edge over him in terms of soul power. Duan Lingfeng is also enduring the poison in his body. Jian Wushuang, you should give him a hand, or he may be defeated. After hearing that, Jian Wushuang asked King of Venomous Worms, the sky-devouring clan descendants aren't good at consciousness attacks, right? Yes, they accumulated power by eating exotic beasts instead of cultivating. As such, they are not so good at consciousness attacks. However, the black-robed man is a peak universe god of the third heaven. Ordinary consciousness attacks are nothing to him. Jian Wushuang, though your soul power is more powerful than your peers at the same level, I don't think it's realistic for you to attack the black-robed man with a soul attack. Chapter 1350, Exterminate. Chapter 1350, Exterminate. Unrealistic. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. I never expected to kill him with my soul attack. I only wanted to catch him by surprise in order to create an opportunity for Duan Lingfeng. This is unrealistic. Create an opportunity. King of Venomous King was shocked. If it was merely to create an opportunity, it might work. If so, I shall give it a try. I happen to have yet to put the secret skill of Tian Yuan to play. Today, let's try the power of the secret skill on this sky devourer. However, with my current soul power, I can only pull off the secret skill of Tian Yuan once. If I were to create an opportunity for Duan Lingfeng with the secret skill, I could only run for my life after he was killed or severely injured. In other words, I only have one chance. Jian Wushuang held his fists tight as his gaze grew solemn. Then Jian Wushuang sent a message to Duan Lingfeng. Duan Lingfeng, I will create an opportunity for you. It will be rather short, and it will pass almost instantly. You must grab this opportunity. Jian Wushuang sent a short message. Duan Lingfeng received the message as he was fighting against the man in the black robe. He looked at Jian Wushuang in shock. Jian Wushuang was just a universe god in the first heaven after all. He was able to create an opportunity for him. Jian Wushuang didn't explain further, but started taking various measures. Virum! A terrifying crimson flame erupted from Jian Wushuang. The crimson flame formed a huge fire sea and filled the entire universe. Jian Wushuang was right at the core of the fire sea, as though he was the king in the fire sea. The secret skill of Scarlet Kingdom was performed straight away. At the same time, the power of stars within his body was triggered entirely. If Scarlet Kingdom could merely increase the speed of Jian Wushuang's attack, then the secret skill of Star, as the scariest and the most fundamental secret skill for lineage of Star, not only can the secret skill of Stars increase Jian Wushuang's power by tenfold in a short period of time, it could even enhance his soul attack by tenfold. Virum vroom vroom. Jian Wushuang's soul power was burning insanely with an enormous amount of soul power surging. His eyes turned cold as he stared at the two of them who were fighting before him. The very next moment, his body suddenly charged forward. The man in the black robe revealed his terrifying fighting power, and he was fighting against Duan Lingfeng face-to-face ferociously. During the fight, the man in the black robe had been keeping an eye on Jian Wushuang at the same time. After all, his target, his prey, was Jian Wushuang. He naturally couldn't let Jian Wushuang run away. When Jian Wushuang charged forward, the man in the black robe noticed at the very moment, asking for it. The man in the black robe immediately turned and charged towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked cold, but there was an absolute calmness in his faint gold eyes. Blood Mountain Sword was in his hand when the man in the black robe turned to charge at him. Jian Wushuang wielded the sword subconsciously. He looked like he wielded the sword, and he really did swing out sword light. But in actual fact, it was just a cover-up to mislead his opponent. The true move lay in the soul power that Jian Wushuang transferred, with which he performed the secret skill of Tian Yuan. The first level of secret skill of Tian Yuan, inextinguishable light. Swoosh, a bunch of light that was transformed solely by soul power and was sent out in silence. Under the cover of the sword light, no one noticed. Everyone on the scene, regardless if it was the man in the black robe, Duan Lingfeng, or even the universe gods on the spaceship afar, no one noticed the existence of the light bunch. The light bunch was hidden among the sword light and charged towards the body of the man in the black robe. The man in the black robe glared at Jian Wushuang with madness. When he saw the sword light that Jian Wushuang sent out, he looked at it in disdain. It is futile. Along with the loud thud and soaring fierceness, the man in the black robe laughed maliciously. He held his fist and smashed it over ferociously. The sword light that Jian Wushuang swung out shattered while part of the impact of the terrifying power from the punch landed on Jian Wushuang's body. Poof! Jian Wushuang immediately spat a mouthful of blood. His face grew pale in that instant. However, it was merely part of the power, so it was sufficient to kill him. Luckily, I am only affected by parts of the power. If I were to take a punch directly, even though my divine body was strong, I wouldn't be able to take it. I would definitely die. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold as he glared at the man in black robe. If I am severely injured, don't you think you'll be okay? Jian Wushuang saw the inextinguishable light immersing in the man in the black robe's body under the concealment of his sword light. The man in black robe didn't notice the soul attack previously. When the inextinguishable light entered his body, he finally reacted. The man in black robe contracted his pupils. After the light bunch entered his body, it suddenly formed a huge soul thorn and attacked his consciousness. Although he was a peak universe god in third heaven, the strength of consciousness was merely at the level of a universe god in the third heaven. Plus, he wasn't under any prevention. The soul attack with the secret skill of stars and Tian Yuan that Jian Wushuang performed gave him a direct hit. Suddenly, the man in the black robe groaned in pain, and he sounded hysterical. His eyes were bloodshot red as he hugged his head and shook insanely. Looking at the sight, Jian Wushuang quickly shouted, "Duan Lingfeng, right now! Do it now!" Behind the man in the black robe, Duan Lingfeng acted swiftly when he noticed the transformation. He seized the opportunity and took action. The 10th, another crimson blade, light, descended. In the dark universe, there was only the crimson blade light that lit up the world. Everyone was uncontrollably attracted to the crimson blade light. The 10th, when Duan Lingfeng was fighting with the man in the black robe earlier, he had only played till the 9th. Then, the 10th was Duan Lingfeng's real strongest stroke. That stroke shocked Jian Wushuang entirely. The blade light appeared behind the man in the black robe, like lightning. The man in the black robe noticed the light, and he forcefully resisted the pain his consciousness was feeling and wanted to block the attack. However, under the sharp pain in his consciousness, It was extremely tough for him to manipulate his divine power. He could barely lift his head, but in the end, the blade light swept past his palm brutally and over his neck. His head flew off just like that. Chapter 1351, Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng left. Chapter 1351, Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng left. His head was cut off by Jian Wushuang. The black-robed man stopped breathing. He died with his eyes still wide open and a shocked look. When he died, he was still in shock from the fact that he was killed by a universe god in the first heaven, and one who he would have been his prey. But now the black-robed man was dead. Boom! He fell downward. Finally, Jian Wushuang was relieved. Now I don't have to escape anymore, Jian Wushuang thought. Thanks to the secret skill of Tian Yuan I got from the Tian Yuan Mystery Land. This secret skill is much more powerful than I had imagined. Jian Wushuang was excited after practicing the secret skill for the first time. But King of Venomous Worms said, "The deeper cause is that the man from the sky-devouring clan has a consciousness at the same level as a universe god in the third heaven. You already have the same soul power as a universe god in the third heaven. So combing the secret skill of Tian Yuan and the secret skills of Star Palace, you can pose a threat to a high-level universe god in the third heaven." Also, he was not very well prepared. Jian Wushuang smiled. Jian Wushuang had wrist injuries and exercised the secret skill of Tian Yuan. And he had succeeded. Jian Wushuang. Duan Lingfeng came to him and said, "Are you okay?" "Fine." Jian Wushuang smiled. "Thank you for your help just now." He was grateful. Duan Lingfeng had indeed played an important role in the battle with the black-robed man. Without Duan Lingfeng distracting the black-robed man, Jian Wushuang could exercise any skill to kill him. "Did you use a consciousness attack just now?" Duan Lingfeng asked Jian Wushuang. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "You killed a universe god in the third heaven with only the consciousness attack." "No, I combined other skills. And by the way, the black-robed man didn't have a strong consciousness." Jian Wushuang answered. Duan Lingfeng felt that Jian Wushuang was avoiding telling the whole truth. He looked at him, but didn't mention anything else. At that time, the spaceship was moving toward Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng. "Master Duan and Brother Jian." Yushan smiled to them. Yushan witnessed the whole battle. He knew how powerful Duan Lingfeng was, so he had to show his respect by calling Duan Lingfeng Master. Jian Wushuang didn't show his full power, but he cooperated well with Duan Lingfeng and created good opportunities for killing the black-robed man. Humph! Duan Ling showed his hatred towards those who chose to hide in the spaceship. Yushan and other universe gods in the spaceship felt embarrassed. Jian Wushuang said, "Forgive them. They have no choice, as they are not powerful enough." Yushan said, "Yes, Master. No one could contain that black-robed man, except you, so we had to—" Jian Wushuang interrupted him at that moment and spoke to Duan Lingfeng. "I also have a spaceship not far from here. How about leaving the team and going together with me?" "Okay." Duan Lingfeng didn't hesitate, and he asked Luo Yu and Luo Hai to come with him. Luo Yu and Luo Hai followed Duan Lingfeng with hesitation. Other universe gods in the spaceship were surprised, but they didn't stop Jian Wushuang. If they had been at the center of the ancient Star Sea, they would beg Duan Lingfeng to stay because they needed his help to fight against danger. But now, they didn't have to do so, as they would leave the ancient Star Sea within 1 month. Jian Wushuang waved his hands and summoned his spaceship. He got on board the spaceship with Duan Lingfeng, Luo Yu, and Luo Hai. Then they left. "Humph, can't we survive without them?" Someone from Yushan's team said. How arrogant they are. They believed that we would beg. Ridiculous. The universe gods had a heated discussion after Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng left. They didn't worry about their safety without them. Let's go by ourselves, Yushan said, leading the team to depart again. But at that moment, boom, with a resounding noise, a herd of exotic beasts flooded onto Yushan's spaceship. They were giant, colorful bats with sharp claws. They flew very fast, soon surrounding the whole spaceship. Damn it! Everyone was scared. And in an instant, the barrier of the spaceship was broken. A ferocious slaughter began. Oh no! Oh my God! Damn it! The universe gods screamed, asking Duan Lingfeng to give them a hand. However, Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng had already gone far away. Chapter 1352, Arrival. Chapter 1352, Arrival. 1 month later. Finally, on the spaceship, Jian Wushuang was rather delighted. In the ancient Star Sea, there was danger everywhere. Even if it was just him in the ancient Star Sea, he would be on high alert at all times. Now that the spaceship had left the ancient Star Sea region entirely, Jian Wushuang was finally relaxed. Jian Wushuang, you want to head to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, and I have to send you and Hai to their hometown. We shall part ways in the world before us, Duan Lingfeng said. All right, Jian Wushuang nodded. After the journey in ancient Star Sea, especially when they joined forces to kill the expert from Sky Devour clan, Jian Wushuang and Duan Lingfeng built a relationship. Jian Wushuang was more than happy to make friends with a real expert like Duan Lingfeng, who valued friendship. However, they each had their own agenda. Hence, they naturally had to part ways. Soon, the spaceship arrived in the world. Duan Lingfeng, I hope we cross path again in the future. Jian Wushuang bid farewell to the other three. Wait till I send you and Hai back to their hometown. I will wander around the 10 cultivation sanctuaries too. By then, we might meet again, Duan Lingfeng said. I'd like it if when I see you, you're already a universe god in the 3rd heaven. Haha, I will try, Jian Wushuang laughed. Brother Wushuang, goodbye. Luo Yu and Luo Hai bid farewell to Jian Wushuang and left. In the boundless darkness of the void, a spaceship slowly traveled. Jian Wushuang, as you pass through ancient Star Sea, the following route is comparatively safe. However, the journey is long. King of Venomous Worm's voice was heard. Your current location to the nearest sanctuaries would require 1,000 years under the condition that there is no interruption. Besides, during the last part of the route, there is the boundless void that I was telling you about. The boundless void is where massacres happen widely. Many experts and geniuses who want to head to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries lost their lives when they were passing through the boundless void. Hence, you have to be extremely careful when you're there. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Let's go. Jian Wushuang continued his journey. In the following time, Jian Wushuang passed as he hurried through his journey and cultivated. During the process, luckily King of Venomous Worms always took the form of a human and kept Jian Wushuang company. That's why Jian Wushuang didn't find it too boring. On the way, he didn't come across too much of an incident. In the journey of his passing by all the kingdoms and worlds, it was rather smooth until he reached the boundless void. The boundless void was right next to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Due to its geological location, the massacre was insane and the robbery was even more rampant. Jian Wushuang knew about how dangerous the boundless void was. Hence, when he entered the range of boundless void, he had been rather careful. Even so, when he passed through the boundless void, he came across 2 huge dangers, and both threatened his life. During the first time, he happened to run into a final battle between two gangs of robbers. One party was defeated while the other winning party started a massacre. All cultivators in the region were affected, and the same went for Jian Wushuang. He was surrounded by over 100 universe gods. He could only pull the secret skill of dragon blood and made a narrow escape. As for the second time, he ran into a madman who was cultivating in the boundless void. The madman was a universe god in the third heaven. Not only was he strong, but he also loved killing. He wandered around the boundless void and killed whatever cultivator that he met, regardless if the person offended him or not. Jian Wushuang met the madman, and the madman took action immediately. Jian Wushuang couldn't resist at all, and it was even difficult for him to run away. In the end, Jian Wushuang performed the secret skill of Tian Yuan under duress. It led to severe injuries of the madman by catching him by surprise. It also shocked the madman. The madman was worried that Jian Wushuang could still perform another similar consciousness attack. Hence, he didn't continue to pester Jian Wushuang. That's why Jian Wushuang got his life back. Besides those two times, the other encounters were well within Jian Wushuang's means. Just when Jian Wushuang passed through the boundless void, it was already 1,100 years later. 1,100 years was nothing to a universe god. However, it was actually lengthy for Jian Wushuang. It was the first time he had hurried a journey for such a long time. In the dark void, Jian Wushuang, it's one of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, East Royal Sanctuary, King of Venomous Worms, said, "We're finally here." Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy, and he looked at a huge land at the end of his sight. It was also a huge land floating in the dark void. But as one of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, the East Royal Sanctuary was bigger than the ordinary world by a few folds, let alone the experts on the land. The 10 cultivation sanctuaries were the experts' paradise. Very soon, Jian Wushuang arrived in the East Royal Sanctuary. The moment Jian Wushuang laid his feet on the East Royal Sanctuary, he could feel that the surroundings were filled with the soul power of the universe. As it was a cultivation sanctuary, it naturally possessed cultivation conditions to which no other places could compare. In the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, regardless of if it was for cultivation or comprehension, the speed would definitely be a few times faster. No wonder so many geniuses and experts would take the risk to come to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. No other places could compare favorably with the cultivation conditions here. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Jian Wushuang, don't be too happy just yet. You're at the East Royal Sanctuary, which is one of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, but not Purple Moon sanctuaries where the lineage of Star is at. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. During the lengthy period of time where he was rushing his journey, he heard from King of Venomous Worms about the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. He also knew that the lineage of Star was within the Purple Moon Sanctuary. It's the overlord and power in Purple Moon Sanctuary, and the East Royal Sanctuary was quite far from the Purple Moon Sanctuary. To go to the Purple Moon Sanctuary from the East Royal Sanctuary, there are two ways. One is to take a wormhole that connects the two sanctuaries. However, that level of wormhole costs a huge price even to take just one ride. It isn't something you can afford. As for another way, it'd really need you to rush the journey on your own. Forget about the even longer journey from Snow Dojo to the East Royal Sanctuary. The danger during this journey is even bigger. King of Venomous Worms said. Chapter 1353, Sending a Message. Chapter 1353, Sending a Message. It takes longer and brings more risks. Jian Wushuang frowned. It seems like it will be impossible for me to go to the Purple Moon Sanctuary. King of Venomous Worms smiled. Don't be upset. You are unable to go alone there, but you could turn to talents from the lineage of Star for help and ask them to take you there. Ask them for help. Exactly. Don't forget that you are not only a disciple of the lineage of Star, but also enjoy a high status as you belong to Star Palace. Send them a message, and they will take you there. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang nodded. Now that we are in the East Royal Sanctuary, it will be much easier for us to go to the Purple Moon Sanctuary. As far as I know, there is a famous community called Vientiane Tower. King of Venomous Worms said. He continued, any resources are available in the Vientiane Tower, and its power stretches to any corner of the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. There are all kinds of businesses in the tower. Intelligence vendors, traders of treasures, and even killers for hire. As long as you pay, you can do anything there. So it's easy for you to ask about sending a message. Jian Wushuang nodded and asked, do they dare to kill talents? Of course, talents there fear nothing. Once someone paid a high price for the service of killing a top genius from one of the top 3 tribes in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, which was even more powerful than the lineage of Star. So talents from Vientiane Tower accepted the request and killed that top genius. The tribe leader was furious, but he couldn't do anything. Jian Wushuang felt amazed by the power of the Vientiane Tower. The Vientiane Tower was far above the standard fare. So, let's go to the Vientiane Tower. He entered a nearby town. There was a Vientiane Tower there. Is that the Vientiane Tower? In front of Jian Wushuang was a towering purple castle decorated with a pattern of a large, exotic beast, with its mouth wide open, as if it wanted to swallow everything in the heavens. Jian Wushuang entered into the Vientiane Tower. There were many cultivators there, each of whom was followed by a waiter in a black robe. What a place full of talents. Jian Wushuang was excited. Those talents, as well as their waiters, were all universe gods. Even the waiters are universe gods. Universe gods are really ordinary. Jian Wushuang murmured. After all, the 10 cultivation sanctuaries is the center of the eternal chaotic world and the heaven of countless cultivators. A super powerful universe god in an ordinary universe is just another nobody here. After pausing for a while, King of Venomous Worms continued, many talents are far more powerful than you, and they are able to kill you easily. Don't bring trouble to yourself here. Jian Wushuang nodded. At that moment, a deacon in a black robe came to Jian Wushuang. She was a beautiful lady who said smilingly, how can I help you? I want to send a message. To whom? The lady asked. Purple Moon Sanctuary of the lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang said. Aha, cross sanctuaries? Okay, follow me. The lady took Jian Wushuang into a secret room. Sir, please write the message into the token, and we will send it out. 2 million chaotic crystals. So expensive, Jian Wushuang thought. In the eternal chaotic world, an ordinary universe god in the first heaven was around 50,000 chaotic crystals. The price of a message almost equaled that of a peak universe god in the second heaven. But Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate to pay. He had accumulated many chaotic crystals along the way in the past 1,000 years. But after he paid for the message, he now had only a few left. Within 3 days, we will inform you of the response from the other side. The lady said, Thank you. Jian Wushuang said before going to wait patiently in the secret room. The Vientiane Tower was indeed efficient. 1 day later, the message was sent to a top talent from the lineage of Star. Now, in the Purple Moon Sanctuary, at the center of a star river, which was long and wide. Full of stars was located the lineage of Star. An elderly in a white robe entered into a huge palace made of special crystals. "Master," the elderly bowed to a man in a crystal bed. "What's the matter?" the man asked, sitting still. The elderly said, "There is a message from the Vientiane Tower." In the message, a universe god said he belonged to the Star Palace of the lineage of Star, and now he is in the East Royal Sanctuary. He asked us to bring him here. Chapter 1354, Fairies Meeting. Chapter 1354, Fairies Meeting. Disciple from Star Palace. The long-haired, middle-aged man, who was like a statue, finally opened his eyes. There was a flash of purple light in his eyes, just like a purple gemstone. There are only a few disciples from Star Palace in the lineage of Star. Since when do we have another one? The long-haired, middle-aged man spoke with a low voice. He said that he passed through the test passed down from Star Foggy Sea in his hometown. He has yet to become the disciple of Star Palace. The elderly in white robes said, "Star Foggy Sea?" The long-haired, middle-aged man creased his eyebrows. Would that be the one that the palace master left behind? Then the long-haired, middle-aged man replied to his message and asked. Soon there was an outcome. I asked the palace master. He did leave it in Star Foggy Sea, and he felt it was not long ago that there was someone who passed the test. It should be this universe god. Oh yeah, what's the young man's name? Which level is he in? The long-haired, middle-aged man asked. His name is Jian Wushuang. He is a universe god in the first heaven now, and the message he sent showed that he was on the other side of ancient Star Sea. He came from a place called Snow Kingdom. He just arrived at the East Royal Sanctuary. The elderly in white robe replied. The other side of ancient Star Sea? That would require him to pass through two dangerous places, ancient Star Sea and the boundless void. He, who is just a universe god in the first heaven, could pass through them. Not bad. He lives up to his reputation as a genius who passed through the test that the palace master set up. The long-haired, middle-aged man smiled faintly and immediately gave a command. Tell Vientiane Tower to send him a reply that we of the lineage of Star are going to send an expert to receive and lead him immediately. We should arrive within 10 years' time and tell him to wait right there. Yes, the elderly in the white robe responded. He then turned around and left. The long-haired, middle-aged man muttered to himself. The elderlies in the lineage of Star have work on hand. Who should I send to bring the young man over? Oh yeah, the long-haired, middle-aged man exclaimed and sent a message out. Soon enough, a handsome man in a loose black robe appeared in the cave dwelling. Yuan, are you looking for me? The handsome man looked calm. Even though the long-haired, middle-aged man was a highly positioned person in lineage of Star, second to the founder of lineage of Star, which was the palace master, the handsome man could call him by his name directly. The long-haired, middle-aged man smiled and said, I have something for you to handle. What is it? The handsome man looked rather cold. Head over to East Royal Sanctuary. There's young man from lineage of Star. He is also a disciple from Star Palace. He just got there from his hometown after going through some difficulties. He just sent a message to request us to send an expert to bring him. The long-haired, middle-aged man said. That's simple. The handsome man creased his eyebrows. For such a simple task, you could have sent any deacon elderly to get it done. Although that's true, our deacon elderly have tasks on hand, and they couldn't free themselves from them. On top of that, the young man passed through the test that Palace Master set up, then became a disciple from Star Palace. He was not ordinary. I want you to see him and instantly determine his power. Besides, most importantly, the middle-aged man paused and looked at the handsome man. All these years you have been wandering at that place, and you finally came back. You should be relaxing. Don't stress yourself out. Fine, I'll go. The handsome man didn't say much, but left right after he agreed. The middle-aged man noticed and let out a sigh. East Royal Sanctuary in Vientiane Tower. Jian Wushuang had been waiting for 2 days, and the Vientiane Tower's attendant, the beautiful lady, came in. "Mister, the message that you sent earlier, there's a reply." The beautiful lady smiled. "What did they say?" Jian Wushuang asked. The lineage of Star replied that they already sent an expert over. He should be here within 10 years. They told you to wait here for the time being. The beautiful lady smiled and said, "That's great." Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy. "As your matter has been taken care of, go ahead and do as you please," the beautiful lady said, and left. Jian Wushuang left the Vientiane Tower soon and found a place to stay temporarily. Jian Wushuang, in another 10 years, you will enter Lineage of Star officially. When you arrive at Lineage of Star, your talent could be put to full play, King of Venomous Worms said. 10 years. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands together, and he was looking forward. 8 years passed by very quickly. But in the 9th year, have you heard? The Fairies meeting that happens once every 10,000 years in this Blood Jade land just started. I heard about it long ago. It's one of the highest standard meeting of Blood Jade land. I heard that many top geniuses participate. For instance, universe gods who are famous from Purple Heart Mansion are all taking part in it. TSK. The Fairies meeting is a great opportunity to rise to the top. It's a pity that I'm too weak. Otherwise, I'd like to give it a try too. In the hotel, many cultivators were gathered there, but they were all talking about the Fairies meeting. In one of the corners in the hotel, Jian Wushuang was drinking quietly while he listened to their discussion. Fairies meeting? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. The Fairies meeting should be something similar to the Firmament Territory Feast that he came across when he stepped foot in Greenfire World. It was something for all parties to select geniuses. To those geniuses, it was really a place for newcomers to come to prominence. It was a great opportunity to rise to the top. However, the Fairies meeting was obviously much grander in scale. Jian Wushuang found out from King of Venomous Worms that the entire East Royal Sanctuary was extremely huge, bigger than any kingdom. East Royal Sanctuary was segregated into 9 pieces of land. In every land, there was the existence of various mansions. It was a structure on the surface, but there were various powers between every mansion, which was fairly complicated. For instance, he was currently in Purple Heart Mansion on the Blood Jade land in East Royal Sanctuary. In the Blood Jade land, besides Purple Heart Mansion, there were 187 other mansions. Every mansion had countless cultivators, which meant that naturally there would be countless geniuses. Jian Wushuang, the Fairies meeting sounds great. Do you want to give it a try? King of Venomous Worms casually said. I am already a disciple under Lineage of Star. It's not necessary. Jian Wushuang smiled. If he didn't become a disciple under Lineage of Star, it would really be a good choice to join the Fairies meeting for him to come to prominence after he arrived at East Royal Sanctuary. However, just then it was really unnecessary. Regardless, head over and take a look. You just got to the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. You should see more of the geniuses here. It'd be beneficial for you too, King of Venomous Worms said. Chapter 1355. 2 Wushuangs. Chapter 1355. 2 Wushuangs. Jian Wushuang thought for a while and followed King of Venomous Worms' advice. After all, it was good to learn more. Then he set out to the selection contest of the Fairies meeting. The preliminary selection contest was held in each town of the Blood Jade land. universe gods or above could attend, but only those who passed the preliminary selection contest could enter into the final contest of the Fairies meeting. When Jian Wushuang arrived, he was shocked. The boundless battlefield was full of tens of thousands of people. However, only 1% of them, or 100,000 of them, had come here for the selection contest. They were universe gods from 3 different heavens. Jian Wushuang soon understood how the selection contest worked. 2 parts, exploring the 9 Boundaries Tower and the inadvertent dreamland. The former one was a test of skills, while the latter was of consciousness. Anyone who passed these 2 tests had access to the Fairies meeting. The 9 Boundaries Tower is quite famous in the East Royal Sanctuary. It is a good opportunity to know how much you have improved your swordsmanship. You could have a try. King of Venomous Worms said. But I don't intend to attend the contest, Jian Wushuang said. But you can still go to the preliminary test without attending the Fairies meeting. King of Venomous Worms said. Can I? Of course. So Jian Wushuang signed up for the preliminary test. He waited with the others on the battlefield. As he waited, half of a month passed. How low the efficiency is, Jian Wushuang complained. It is because more than 100,000 universe gods are attending the selection, which is also why the selection contest is held 10 years ahead of the Fairies contest. King of Venomous Worms explained. Don't worry. The one who will take you to the lineage of Star hasn't come. You can wait patiently. So Jian Wushuang continued waiting. Almost 1 day passed. Next, Cheng Wushuang. The announcement of the host sparked a heated discussion in the battlefield. Cheng Wushuang, the top genius of the Lionheart town. He is also joining the preliminary selection contest. But I have heard that he is already the disciple of a tribe. Passing the selection contest is a piece of cake to him. The discussion continued. All eyes were on one person. He wore a white robe and held a folding fan. He looked refined, with a charming smile. He was the well-known top genius in the Lionheart town. Cheng Wushuang walked to the 9 Boundaries Tower slowly. Jian Wushuang was also watching. His name is quite similar to yours. Huh? King of Venomous Worms said amusedly. But Jian Wushuang didn't care. After all, it was common for people to share the same name as others in the vast, eternal, chaotic world. How many levels could he achieve? Jian Wushuang wondered. After a while, the result was announced. Cheng Wushuang, the 11th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower, the 4th levels of the inadvertent dreamland. The spectators were excited. He passed. The criteria is 11th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower and the 4th levels of the inadvertent dreamland, and he passed more than that. He is the first one in the Lionheart town to pass the preliminary contest. Everyone showed their admiration. From the past month, he was the first one to have passed the contest. With all eyes on him, the refined Cheng Wushuang walked down from the tower. Next, Jian Wushuang. After the announcement, the battlefield turned silent. Even Cheng Wushuang paused mid-step. Jian Wushuang. Cheng Wushuang was interested. Another discussion was sparked. Interesting. Jian Wushuang after Cheng Wushuang. 2 Wushuangs in the Lionheart town. And they go the contest one after the other? What a coincidence. Everyone was interested. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate to move forward. All were looking at him. As Jian Wushuang was entering into the Lionheart town, Cheng Wushuang asked him indifferently, "You are Jian Wushuang?" Jian Wushuang paused, looked at Cheng Wushuang, and nodded. "You'd better change your name. Not everyone deserves this unique name." Jian Wushuang sneered. My name was given to me by my parents, and I cannot change it. By the way, how would you know whether or not I deserve it? Then Jian Wushuang continued to move forward and went into the 9 Boundaries Tower. Jian Wushuang didn't leave. He waited on the battlefield. Chapter 1356, Challenge. Chapter 1356, Challenge. 9 Boundaries Tower, first floor. Jian Wushuang looked at his opponent, a war puppet that was holding a saber. At the same time, Jian Wushuang could feel his divine power being restrained. In the 9 Boundaries Tower, he could only rely on the unique skill that he created and a killing technique to win victory. He couldn't take any other measure. To wander the dark void for 1,100 years. I have been studying my sword principle during those times. Now I can finally test and see how much have I improved. Let's get started. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy, and he suddenly charged forward. The war puppet before him took a huge stride forward too. It wielded its saber and let out a comparable divine power to Jian Wushuang's. Advanced rank 1 unique skill. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows, then he swung his sword and collapsed the war puppet with 1 stroke. Then, Jian Wushuang appeared on the 2nd level. 9 Boundaries Tower had a total of 17 floors. As long as he passed through the first 10 floors, it was considered a pass. 9 Boundaries Tower changes according to the level of the cultivator. Jian Wushuang was just a universe god in the 1st heaven. That's why the war puppet from the 1st floor only performed an advanced rank 1 unique skill. However, when he arrived on the 2nd floor, the war puppet used a peak rank 1 unique skill, but it didn't affect Jian Wushuang at all. Jian Wushuang passed through floor by floor rather easily. Soon, Jian Wushuang passed through the 10th floor, which meant he had passed through the preliminary stage. On the 11th floor, it was still the same war puppet, but its sword technique had leveled up to be an advanced rank 2 unique skill. The Wushuang earlier passed through the 11th floor. He is also a universe god in the 1st heaven. In other words, he at least created an advanced rank 2 unique skill. Not too shabby, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Among universe god in the 1st heaven from Snow Kingdom, those who had created an advanced rank 2 unique skill were only Long Hao from Snow Dojo and Lu Qing from Universe God Palace. The 2 of them were the top geniuses acknowledged in Snow Dojo and Universe God Palace. In East Royal Sanctuary, the top genius in an ordinary town was not weaker than Long Hao nor Lu Qing. He might even be stronger. Wow! A cold sword shadow swept past, but didn't leave any traces behind in the void. Jian Wushuang broke down the war puppet on the 11th floor directly. On the 12th floor, the war puppet still carried out an advanced rank 2 unique skill, but it was considered the stronger kind. When one reaches the 12th floor, he has to create a peak rank 2 unique skill. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, and there was another flash of sword light. The brutal sword light was unbelievably fast. It hit the war puppet directly. He passed through the 12th floor. On the 13th floor, the war puppet was already performing a peak rank 2 unique skill. However, Jian Wushuang only fought against it for a short while before he felled it again. On the 14th floor, wow, 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 the billowing saber light continuously slashed towards Jian Wushuang, and he felt a tremendous increase of pressure. The 14th floor is the real barrier to testify to my improvement within the last 1,000 years. Jian Wushuang held his fists as murderous intention filled his eyes. The very next moment, Jian Wushuang erupted his swordsmanship. Dragon roar! Roar! A terrifying, low bellow swept out along with the soaring sword intention. Jian Wushuang put his sword principles that he created all these years to play entirely. The fight was rather ferocious. After a fierce battle, the war puppet on the 14th floor was defeated by Jian Wushuang. Phew! Jian Wushuang let out a breath of relief and came to the 5th floor of the 9 Boundaries Tower. I already gave my all to go through the 14th floor. I performed 3 peak rank 2 unique skills that I created. The 15th floor was stronger than the 14th floor. If I want to pass through it, I have to at least create a rank 2 strongest unique skill. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Rank 2 strongest unique skill. As it was a strongest unique skill, it would be very difficult to create. Back then, Jian Wushuang created a rank 1 strongest unique skill, Eternal Light. It was created via an enormous amount of accumulation, plus a bit of luck. As he wandered for the past 1,000 years, his swordsmanship did improve greatly. He even created 3 different peak, rank 2 unique skills. However, he had yet to create a rank 2 strongest unique skill. He didn't pass through the 15th floor in the end. After going through 9 Boundaries Tower, Jian Wushuang immediately entered Inadvertent Dreamland. Inadvertent Dreamland focused on testing one's consciousness. There was a total of 7 floors. He only had to pass through 3 floors to pass the preliminary stage. Stepping foot in the 1st floor of Inadvertent Dreamland, Jian Wushuang wasn't affected at all. It was followed by the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th. Jian Wushuang passed through the 4 floors of Dreamland rather leisurely. He didn't feel pressured at all. My consciousness strength has reached the level of a universe god in the 3rd heaven. I'm definitely considered a monster among universe gods in the 1st heaven, and my consciousness has already transformed into a soul power that has become more firm and tenacious. The test of Inadvertent Dreamland would barely cause any harm to me. Jian Wushuang shook his head in silence. After going through the first 4 levels, he wasn't affected at all. Even the following 5th floor, 6th floor, and even 7th floor wouldn't have too huge of an effect. However, even though he was confident to pass through the 7th floor, Jian Wushuang gave up the following tests after he passed through the 5th floor easily. After all, his target was originally just 9 Boundaries Tower. It was unnecessary to put up too impressive of a show. The reason why he passed through the 5th floor was that he thought Jian Wushuang was an eyesore, so he intentionally passed an extra floor than him. Otherwise, according to Jian Wushuang's character, he would only pass through the 3rd floor, which was sufficient to pass the preliminary threshold. After going through 9 Boundaries Tower and Inadvertent Dreamland, Jian Wushuang returned to the training field. The people under the training field looked at him subconsciously, and Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes as he watched him. On the top of the training field, the universe god in the 3rd heaven, who was the host of the preliminary stage, received the outcome of Jian Wushuang going through 9 Boundaries Tower, and Inadvertent Dreamland revealed a shocking expression. The universe god in the 3rd heaven then announced the result. Jian Wushuang passed through 14 floors in 9 Boundaries Tower and 5 floors in Inadvertent Dreamland. He passed the preliminary stage. When the universe god in the 3rd heaven announced the result, his voice became rather heated. After the result was announced, the entire training field was in silence. There was shock in everyone's eyes. How is this possible? The scholarly bearing youth, Jian Wushuang, looked at Jian Wushuang in awe. There was a surge of emotions in him. He only passed through the 11th floor in 9 Boundaries Tower, and he was considered amazing. However, the other Wushuang went all the way to the 14th floor. It was another 3 floors more than he did. What's going on? Chapter 1357. Every sect was excited about Jian Wushuang. Oh, Chapter 1357. Every sect was excited about Jian Wushuang. An unusual talent. Jian Wushuang is an unusual talent in the Purple Heart Mansion. In the Blood Jade Land, and even in the whole East Royal Sanctuary. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. And I said he didn't deserve his name. Jian Wushuang felt regretful and terrified. He knew that talents like Jian Wushuang were qualified enough to join a powerful tribe or sect and be a core figure, and could even win the Fairies contest. He feared that Jian Wushuang was angry with him and would bring him trouble. Is he angry? Maybe I could apologize by changing my name. Jian Wushuang thought. But actually, Jian Wushuang didn't pay any attention to him. After he passed the preliminary contest, he left. But everyone got excited and admired him a lot. Go, tell our leader that there is a real top genius in the Lionheart town. He reached the 14th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower, which has only 17 levels. As far as we know, only 2 talents have reached the 14th level, and Jian Wushuang is the 3rd one. Tell our sect members to come and invite Jian Wushuang to join us, or he will join other sections. Intelligence talents from different groups shared information with each other about Jian Wushuang. After only half of a day, many talents from different sects came to Lionheart Town to see Jian Wushuang. But Jian Wushuang now stayed alone in the yard that he lived in. Jian Wushuang was unsatisfied with his performance. Instead, he knew that he was now meeting with a bottleneck of his swordsmanship, and until a new opportunity, he couldn't improve. He wanted to make a breakthrough, but it was now extremely difficult to make a breakthrough. As he was upset, a figure appeared at the top of Jian Wushuang's yard. A breath disseminated around with a power appalling to any universe gods. What is that? Jian Wushuang felt the power and raised his head. He was surprised when he saw a black figure rising in the heaven. He felt that the one in front of him was a peak talent that transcended universe gods and was at the same level as Master of Silence Gloriette from the Snow Dojo. Jian Wushuang had heard about that level of power. It's a real god. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists excitedly. The real god was at a level beyond universe gods. Real gods, though not as powerful as an almighty, were definitely experts in the eternal chaotic world. Real gods were definitely the privileged and respectable ones in any god kingdom or any sect in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. And now, Jian Wushuang was meeting a real god. Are you Jian Wushuang? This black-robed elderly smiled kindly to Jian Wushuang. Yes, and may I ask your name? Jian Wushuang asked. He had thought the elderly was from the lineage of Star, but he quickly disregarded the possibility. Because he had the identity token for disciples of the Star Palace, he would feel a signal if this real god was from the lineage of Star. But Jian Wushuang didn't feel the signal. I am Wu Chun from Tianluo Star Palace. The black-robed elderly introduced himself. Tianluo Star Palace. Jian Wushuang had never heard of it. Wu Chun knew Jian Wushuang was puzzled, and he said, "To be honest, I come to invite you to join our Tianluo Star Palace. I know that you have reached the 14th level of the 9 Boundaries Tower. If you join us, our sect will definitely provide you with the best training." Jian Wushuang was surprised. He knew now that Wu Chun came here to invite him. Tianluo Star Palace is known to be the top sect in the Purple Heart Mansion. With our abundant resources, you could unleash your potential there. Wu Chun said. Jian Wushuang hesitated. Before he replied, another talent came, saying with hostility, "Wu Chun, do you feel ashamed when you are lying?" The newcomer was a lady in a purple robe. She also had breath as powerful as Wuchun, also a real god. Another one? Jian Wushuang felt embarrassed. He just intended to test his swordsmanship, and he wanted to keep a low profile without showing his full strength. He didn't expect there to still be talents coming for him. Kong Jing. Wuchun looked worried. Kong Jing said indifferently, "You may lie to him, but you cannot cheat me. Is Tianluo Star Palace ranked first? What about Holy Church of Golden Wing?" When she turned to Jian Wushuang, Kong Jing's tone softened. "I am Kong Jing from the Holy Church of Golden Wing. If you join us, I will arrange a top real god for you with the best swordsmanship." Kong Jing smiled to Jian Wushuang. But neither Kong Jing nor Wuchun or Jian Wushuang knew that not far away there was another talent who was looking at them. This disciple of the lineage of Star is quite popular. Chapter 1358, Lei Chao. Chapter 1358, Lei Chao. Holy Church of Golden Wing? Jian Wushuang looked at the two real gods before him. Regardless of whether it's Tianluo Star Palace or Holy Church of Golden Wing, I have never heard of either. I reckon they are some powerful forces in East Royal Sanctuary. It's nice that they have a few real gods to personally attend their forces. In East Royal Sanctuary, there are countless forces of that size. How could it be compared favorably with the lineage of Star? Jian Wushuang, you don't have to bother with them, King of Venomous Worms said. I know, Jian Wushuang simply replied. However, he actually didn't dare to ignore the two real gods. My friend, Wuchun spoke. I know that with your talent you could totally showcase yourself in the Fairies meeting, and some bigger forces might take a liking to you. However, don't forget that although the bigger forces have more resources, they have more outstanding disciples under them too. After segregation, the resources that you obtain might, in turn, be lesser. However, it's different in Tianluo Star Palace. For a talent like you would definitely be nurtured and raised with the utmost care in Tianluo Star Palace. We at the Holy Church of Golden Wing would do the same. The purple-dressed lady, Kong Jing, added too. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He replied, I'm sorry. I appreciate your kind offers, but to be frank, I didn't intend to join the Fairies meeting. In other words, I naturally didn't intend to join any other forces or sections. The reason why I joined the preliminary was merely because I wanted to test my sword's principle via the 9 Boundaries Tower. You didn't intend to join any forces or sects. Wu Cheng and Kong Jing both creased their eyebrows. That's right, Jian Wushuang nodded. To be honest, I have already had a master since long ago. Is that so? Wu Chun and Kong Jing exchanged a glance. They both felt disappointed. A genius who had passed through 9 Boundaries Tower till the 14th floor like Jian Wushuang was definitely someone that both sects would love to have. Hence, at the moment the two of them had received such news, they rushed over personally. However, they never expect that Jian Wushuang was a master long ago. As he had a master, he naturally couldn't join other sections. Just then, swoosh, a figure appeared out of nowhere above the courtyard. Jian Wushuang, Wu Chun, Kong Jing looked towards the visitor. It was a handsome man in a loose, long robe. The handsome man looked cold as he stood there without giving out much aura. However, his star-like eyes glanced at Wu Chun and Kong Jing. With just that one glance, the two real gods, Wu Chun and Kong Jing, both revealed a face of terror. Their faces grew pale all of a sudden. I am Lei Chao. The handsome man spoke in a cold but soft voice. However, it caused a loud echo in Wu Chun and Kong Jing's head. Lei Chao, real god Lei Chao, from lineage of Star? The expert on the real god list. Wu Chun and Kong Jing were shocked. They had obviously heard Lei Chao's name before, and they clearly knew how amazing he was. "Greetings, Mr. Lei Chao." "Greetings, Mr." The two real gods bowed politely at the handsome man without hesitation. They were all real gods, but the two of them revered Lei Chao sincerely. The handsome man Lei Chao merely glanced at them, but didn't bother with the two real gods. He turned to look at Jian Wushuang instead. "You are Jian Wushuang?" Lei Chao looked at Jian Wushuang. "Greetings, Mr. Lei Chao." Jian Wushuang also bowed politely, but he wasn't worried. He could feel the lineage of stars token on Lei Chao. "I am here to bring you back to the lineage of star. Be prepared, we shall leave now," Lei Chao said calmly. "I don't have to prepare anything. I can leave any time," Jian Wushuang replied. Lei Chao nodded and looked at the two real gods next to him. The two real gods looked terrified, and Wu Chun said, "Mr. Lei Chao, the two of us didn't know that this young man has a master, let alone the fact that he was a disciple from the lineage of Star. Hence, we invited him to join us. Please forgive us." "I saw everything that happened earlier," Lei Chao said. "As the two of you came for him, you definitely know a bit about his ability then. Tell me." This Wu Chun hesitated for a while before she said, "The reason why we found him was that he joined the preliminary for the Fairies meeting. During the preliminary, he passed through 14 levels in 9 Boundaries Tower and 5 levels in Inadvertent Dreamland. Hence, we rushed over to get him." 9 Boundaries Tower? Inadvertent Dreamland? Lei Chao raised his eyebrows. "I have heard about the 2 tests. A universe god in the first heaven passing through 14 levels is quite impressive. However, on consciousness, although he was better than similar ranks, he still wouldn't be considered the top." Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard that. He wasn't even in the mood to go through the test in Inadvertent Dreamland. If he were to give his all, he might be able to pass through all 7 floors in Inadvertent Dreamland. "Jian Wushuang, let's go." Lei Chao didn't say anything more. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate, but followed Lei Chao. As for Wu Chun and Kong Jing, they stood there until they saw Lei Chao left entirely. Then, the two of them finally let out a breath of relief. "Lei Chao, he is really the top expert on the list. He is also famous in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. I can't believe we could see him in person." Wu Chun clasped his hands together as he spoke passionately. "I originally planned to get this genius at all cost, but was unaware that Jian Wushuang had joined Lineage of Star long ago. Lineage of Star, TSK TSK. The Overlord and Purple Moon Sanctuary, they have countless geniuses. Although Jian Wushuang is amazing, he might not be the top expert in Star Palace," Kong Jing said quietly. "Kong Jing, I guess your effort was in vain." Wu Chun looked over. "Same for you, isn't it?" Kong Jing smirked. "He's a disciple from the lineage of Star. Unless Tian Luo Star Palace is planning to fight for him with the lineage of Star?" Wu Chun shrugged. The two of them didn't chat further, but left. In the void, Jian Wushuang moved swiftly behind Lei Chao. "Mr. Lei Chao, are we going back to Lineage of Star directly?" Jian Wushuang asked. "I have something to take care of in East Royal Sanctuary. We will return right after. Don't worry, it won't take too long," Lei Chao said. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows, but he remained unconcerned. Then Jian Wushuang followed closely behind Lei Chao. The two of them took the wormhole towards another land in East Royal Sanctuary. In one of the mansions on the land, Lei Chao brought Jian Wushuang along with him and stopped before an ancient clan. Chapter 1359, Thunderfire Sect. Chapter 1359, Thunderfire Sect. Now we have arrived at the Thunderfire Sect. Thunderfire Sect? Jian Wushuang didn't know even what it was. The elderly god from the Thunderfire Sect is our friend. He sent a message to us that the Thunderfire Sect is in danger. Now, we are going to help him. Lei Chao said. Got it, Jian Wushuang said. Thunderfire Sect was only a small sect. It was not easy for such a sect to develop a friendship with the lineage of Star. Let's go. They went to the gate of Thunderfire Sect. Who is that? The universe gods in the Thunderfire Sect felt alarmed by these two visitors. Immediately, more than 10 universe gods surrounded Jian Wushuang and Lei Chao. More specifically, they surrounded Lei Chao. Lei Chao stood there calmly and silently. After a while, an elderly in a purple robe came. I am the master of the Thunderfire Sect. May I ask what you are coming for? The elderly stared at Lei Chao, knowing that his visitor was powerful. We came at the invitation of the Green Fox. It's his letter. Lei Chao took out a letter. The Green Fox was the elderly god of the Thunderfire Sect. Talents who will help us. Those universe gods were excited and happy after hearing that. After the sect master read the letter, he was relieved. Come in, please. The sect master welcomed them. So, Jian Wushuang and Lei Chao entered the Thunderfire Sect. As they were walking, the sect master asked Lei Chao, "Do you know where Green Fox is now?" He just told me via letter that he couldn't come back without making his location known. Now his situation is dangerous, and there may sometimes be a risk of death. He can't come back to save the sect, and he asked me to help. Lei Chao said, "Green Fox is now in danger." The sect master frowned. Thunderfire Sect was only a small tribe in which there were only two real gods, the sect master and Green Fox. The death of any real god would be a disaster. Green Fox, in particular, was the backbone of the sect. Lei Chao didn't beat about the bush. He asked, "What crisis is the Thunderfire Sect facing?" The sect master answered directly, "We have always been fighting against the White Flame Palace. Our conflicts and hatred are only growing in magnitude. In the past, we were neck and neck with each other. We each had two real gods, and Green Fox was very powerful. So the White Flame Palace didn't dare make trouble. However, recently they added a new real god and also invited an independent real god to protect them. So they now have 4 real gods, making them much more powerful than us. In the past 100 years, they have been attacking us and grabbing our property. We are surviving thanks to our sect's secret skills, but actually the sect is on shaky ground. I intended to call Green Fox back to save our sect, but I now know that he is in danger." The sect master seemed helpless. Lei Chao said, "That's to say, if we can kill 2 real gods in the White Flame Palace, they can't pose a threat to you, right?" "Yes." The sect master nodded. "If we manage to do this, we will not only contain the White Flame Palace, but also recover our lost property." Lei Chao said, "Okay, that's easy. As you have fought with the White Flame Palace for a long time, you must know how many universe gods they have, right?" "Of course." The sect master nodded, but he didn't know why Lei Chao had asked that. The real crisis came from 4 real gods. Why did Lei Chao mention universe gods? Jian Wushuang couldn't understand either. "Give me a ranking list of all the universe gods from the White Flame Palace." Lei Chao said, "No problem." The sect master asked his subordinates to finish the task. After a while, Lei Chao got the list. After looking through the list, Lei Chao said, "Let's go to the White Flame Palace." The master of the Thunderfire Sect didn't understand, and he asked, "At this very moment, talents from the White Flame Palace are watching us outside our sect. If we go out, They will raid us immediately. How can we take that risk? Lei Chao glanced at the sect master and said indifferently, "How can you solve the crisis by staying in the sect? But stop talking and leave me there." Lei Chao didn't want to explain further. The sect master chose to trust Lei Chao's decision. He trusted Lei Chao because he felt that Lei Chao was powerful enough to protect the sect. Without enough confidence, Lei Chao would risk death and go to the White Flame Palace. Lei Chao was confident enough. Chapter 1360, Thunder Measure. Chapter 1360, Thunder Measure. Before a lofty mountain near the door of Thunderfire Sect. "Mister, this is White Flame Palace's campsite near Thunderfire Sect. All 4 real gods of White Flame Palace are in there," Thunderfire Sect Master said. Behind the elderly in the purple robe, there were higher-ups from Thunderfire Sect. Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang stood at the front. Lei Chao folded his arms as he overlooked the lofty mountain before him with a cold gaze. When they appeared, the experts in the mountain shook that instant. There were figures of experts that soared up in the sky one after another. Among the crowds of experts from White Flame Place, there were 4 leading figures. From the aura that the 4 figures gave out, they were far beyond the level of a universe god. They were obviously the 4 real gods from White Flame Palace. "Ha! Old man Zichio, I thought you'd hide for the rest of your life. I never thought that you would ever come to me," a perverse bald man said in disdain as he smiled maliciously. The person who is speaking now is the solo expert that White Flame Palace hired. He is the strongest among the 4 real gods from White Flame Palace. Even if their chief comes, he might not be his match. The elderly with crane hair next to him is the palace master of White Flame Palace. Thunderfire Sect Master Zichio said with a low voice. Lei Chao nodded faintly. The 4 real gods from White Flame Palace noticed Lei Chao's existence from the opposite. Humph! No wonder he dared to show up. He found help. However, you thought you had found a real god, and Thunderfire Sect would be fine? The perverse bald man laughed. Although he could tell that it wasn't wise to provoke Lei Chao, he didn't care much because he was confident with his own capability. "Mister, what do we do now?" Zichio asked. "You just watch from here," Lei Chao replied briefly, and suddenly moved. Swoosh! When Lei Chao's figure appeared again, he was already before the perverse bald man. His right index finger flashed with light. When he pointed, a terrifying, damaging aura suddenly erupted. The damaging aura was fierce, and the 4 real god from White Flame Palace revealed a face of terror. Lei Chao's index finger became bigger in size in the perverse bald man's eyes. He couldn't give any response. Pissed, the light went through in between the perverse bald man's eyebrows. The perverse bald man couldn't even let out a groan before he was killed. The sight shocked everyone at the scene. How is that possible? The experts from White Flame Palace were all dumbfounded. Merely a finger, and he killed a real god. Zichio stared. This Jian Wushuang revealed a face of terror. It was Jian Wushuang's first time to see a real god take action personally, and it was also his first time seeing a real god killed with his own eyes. He was even killed instantly without any space of struggle. He finally understood why the 2 real gods Wu Chen and Kong Jing in Lionheart Town would revere Lei Chao. They were all real gods, but their difference was vast. After killing the perverse bald man with 1 finger, Lei Chao took action like lightning again. Pissed, followed by another 2 soft thuds. Another 2 figures fell. The 4 real gods from White Flame Palace. Lei Chao killed 3 of them in an instant. The remaining one was the palace master of White Flame Palace, the only one alive. Of course, The reason why he was alive was that Lei Chao didn't intend to kill him. The palace master of White Flame Palace's face was covered in terror. He stared at Lei Chao and finally uttered a question. Who are you exactly? Lineage of Star, Lei Chao. Lei Chao didn't hide his identity. The palace master of White Flame Palace was suddenly wide open. The expert on the real god list, Lei Chao. How is this possible? How is the Thunderfire sect be related to an expert like you? It's impossible. The palace master of White Flame Palace started bellowing. Palace master of White Flame Palace. Lei Chao's voice was cold. Follow my instruction, and I give leave White Flame Palace a way out. The palace master of White Flame Palace immediately calmed down. He knew that it was not the time for sorrow and fear, but most importantly, to focus on keeping White Flame Palace alive. Lei Chao took out the name list that he had obtained from Thunderfire Sect. I have a name list here. Whoever gets his name called out, stand out on your own. First one, Luo Su. Lei Chao's cold voice reverberated in the lofty mountain. A large number of experts from White Flame Palace gathered in the mountain. The most outstanding experts were all gathered here. When the universe god in the first heaven named Luo Su heard Lei Chao's voice, although he was terrified, he stood up. Luo Su, it is very simple. I will give you, and also everyone in White Flame Palace, a chance to live, if you can defeat him. Luo Su pointed Jian Wushuang and said, otherwise you can only die. White Flame Palace could only be destroyed entirely. Defeat him. The universe god in the first heaven, named Luo Su, immediately looked towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang already stood out then, and he looked rather calm. When Lei Chao asked for a name list of experts from White Flame Palace, he had a faint idea of Lei Chao's plan. Obviously, Lei Chao intended to use the experts from White Flame Palace to determine his ability. After all, although he had passed through the 14th floor in 9 Boundaries Tower and the 5th floor in Inadvertent Dreamland, those were focused on unique skills and consciousness. They had nothing to do with one's real power. Jian Wushuang became a disciple of Star Palace through the test which the founder of the lineage of Star had created. It was different from other disciples from Star Palace. It was only normal that a higher-up in the lineage of Star wanted to know his real power. Jian Wushuang, as Lei Chao wanted to determine your level of power. Give your all and don't hide. After all, the lineage of Star higher-up would allocate resources according to the power and talent that you show. If you were to reveal stronger capabilities, the more benefits you would to receive, King of Venomous Worms said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily as his gaze grew sharp. The expert names Luo Su also had determination burning in his eyes. He could tell that Jian Wushuang was like him, a universe god in the first heaven. As they were both universe gods in the first heaven, he had nothing to be afraid of. After all, he was the top universe god in the first heaven in White Flame Palace. He was a real genius. Come on. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. As he stood there, the Blood Mountain sword had already appeared in his hand. Chapter 1361, A Fierce Fight. Chapter 1361, A Fierce Fight. Come on. The universe god called Luo Su started the attack. He was confident, believing that he was as powerful as Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword transformed into a bright flash of light and went through the throat of Luo Su. A horrible soul power exploded from the sword, tearing Luo Su apart. Luo Su's eyes were wide open, but soon became lifeless. Killing with only one sword attack. Everyone from both the Thunderfire Sect and the White Flame Palace couldn't believe what they had seen. Luo Su died in the first round of the battle with Jian Wushuang. Lei Chao was still calm and called the next universe god. Next, Su Meng. Su Meng went out and looked at Jian Wushuang aggressively. As the universe god in the second heaven, Su Meng was much powerful than Luo Su. So Su Meng was supposed to defeat Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang waved his sword, which sent out a freezing cold light to surround Su Meng and kill him. Also with one attack, everyone from both the Thunder Fire Sect and the White Flame Palace was speechless. Lei Chao felt satisfied and nodded, and he continued to call the next person. After pausing for a while, he pronounced a name, Qinbin. Other universe gods started a heated discussion. A youth came out from the group of the White Flame Palace. Qinbin is the top guy amongst the universe gods in the second heaven. It is said that he fought against a universe god in the third heaven and wasn't defeated. What if Qinbin kills Jian Wushuang? Someone from the Thunder Fire Sect commented. Impossible. I know Lei Chao. He is at the top of the real god list, and he is able to kill a group of real gods. So he would not even allow a real god to kill that universe god in the first heaven, let alone only a universe god in the second heaven. The master of the Thunder Fire Sect said. But he was also shocked that Jian Wushuang was going to fight with a universe god in the second heaven. Now, the sect master fully understood why Lei Chao was confident enough to go to the White Flame Palace. By himself, Lei Chao could ruin the whole White Flame Palace. In the heaven, Qinbin came to Jian Wushuang with a long purple sword, sending out a scary power. Jian Wushuang could feel that the pressure brought by Qinbin was much stronger than the previous two talents. Watch out. I am different from them. Qinbin said coldly. Come on. Jian Wushuang held his blood mountain sword tightly. Bang! Qinbin unleashed his strong power. His breath transformed into a giant purple exotic beast, rising from Qinbin. Qinbin hurled out his sword, producing a resounding cracking sound. Bang! 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 Several attacks came at Jian Wushuang and surrounded him. A very fast attack. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He generated his divine power and waved his sword whilst combing it with the ancient god power. Boom! 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 Several resounding booms exploded. Purple thunder! Qinbin started to generate another skill. A giant shadow of an exotic purple beast appeared behind Qinbin. The beast opened its giant mouth. Its roar shook the whole heaven and formed a horrible force rushing toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shivered under the powerful attack and couldn't open his eyes. Shoo! The flash of purple light stabbed into Jian Wushuang's heart. Although Jian Wushuang didn't open his eyes, he managed to defend himself with his soul power against the attack of the purple light. He stepped back further and adjusted his position. I have said that I am different from the precious ones. As Qinbin spoke, he generated power in the purple sword in his hand. The horrible power gradually dispersed. Jian Wushuang was undergoing high pressure from Qinbin. Although my soul power is better than Qinbin's, from which I could defend myself, he has many more powerful unique skills than I have. And immediately, Qin exercised another attack. Boom! Qinbin's horrible divine power tore a hole in the heavens, and the power rushed towards Jian Wushuang. Then, several attacks came suddenly. A purple tornado rose up, though its power had yet to explode. Its formidable strength had already shocked many universe gods in the second heaven. Rank 3 unique skill. He's even using an advanced rank 3 unique skill. Jian Wushuang was amazed. It was so amazing that a universe god in the second heaven could generate an advanced rank 1 unique skill. Jian Wushuang now could only generate a peak rank 2nd unique skill, far behind this top genius from the White Flame Palace. Though I am not as good at unique skills, I can make up for it with secret skills. Jian Wushuang started to generate a golden light, igniting a blood-red fire. The fire spread and formed a vast blood-red sea. At the same time, Jian Wushuang took out his blaze quicksand gourd, from which floods of sand gushed out and rushed to Chenbin. Blaze quicksand. Even the used-to-be indifferent Lei Chao was surprised by Jian Wushuang's secret skills. The dragon roar. Jian Wushuang generated another secret skill. Boom! With a startling roar, the power of Jian Wushuang's sword skyrocketed. The dragon roar, one of the 3 peak rank second secret skills, was the one which had the feature of being able to generate power. Chapter 1362, revealed. Chapter 1362, revealed. Bang! A vigorous rumble echoed across the void. After the rumble, there was a figure that retreated rapidly. The figure constantly flipped as it retreated and finally calmed down. So strong. Jian Wushuang wiped off the blood stain at the corner of his lips as he spoke the compliment. He performed a dragon roar with his all, but it was suppressed by Chenbin directly. He is so much stronger than I in unique skill. I would not be his match if I were to fight head-on. I can only play that trick. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn as he oppressed the churning energy and blood in his body. The very next moment, he suddenly exploded, and the blood mountain sword in his hand suddenly shook vigorously. Blood. The long sword swept out as it revealed its earth-shaking power, and a soaring soul power exploded. Useless. Chenbin's gaze turned cold as he suddenly turned the purple long spear in his hand and let loose. Rumble. A simple action that caused another explosion of earth-shattering power in an instant. It was an advanced, rank 3 unique skill again. When the two collided, poof! Jian Wushuang spat a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale, while he retreated. As for Chenbin, he easily collapsed Jian Wushuang's sword principle, but the fierce soul attack in the sword principle caught him off guard. However, Chenbin was a genius at the end of the day. He had created an advanced rank 3 unique skill, and his consciousness wasn't weak either. He could compare favorably with an advanced universe god in the 3rd heaven. Although he was surprised by the hit of Jian Wushuang's soul attack, it merely turned his face pale for a while before he recovered. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He deserves to be called the top genius in White Flame Palace. Even his consciousness is that fierce. Even if I perform the secret skill of Tian Yuan with my all, I might not be able to kill him. I could only severely damage him at most. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. In the void above, Lei Chao, who was hanging in the air, quietly suddenly contracted his pupils. Just now, that was a consciousness attack. No, it's not consciousness, but there was a flash in Lei Chao's eyes, and he resumed normalcy very quickly. Swoosh! Lei Chao appeared in the middle of the battlefield. He stole a glance at Chenbin and said, "You saved yourself and also White Flame Palace." Chenbin was stunned. Lei Chao then looked towards Thunderfire Sect Master. The danger of Thunderfire Sect has been resolved. I shall make a move. Jian Wushuang, let's go. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Without waiting for anyone's response, the two of them made a move immediately. After leaving Thunderfire Sect, Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang moved forward. Soon, Lei Chao stopped on a remote mountain. Jian Wushuang. Lei Chao looked at Jian Wushuang and asked, "Where did you get your blood-killing plate armor?" Jian Wushuang was stunned. He had obtained the blood-killing plate armor long ago, but it was the first time someone had recognized it. However, Jian Wushuang didn't find it strange. After all, A top expert like Lei Chao was definitely knowledgeable and experienced. When he was fighting with Chen Bin, Lei Chao could recognize blood-killing plate armor the moment it revealed its power. Jian Wushuang immediately replied, "I obtained the blood-killing plate armor from a universe master in my hometown." Universe master? Lei Chao creased his eyebrows. Back then, the power that he revealed was merely universe master level. However, it might be because his fighting power was damaged. Jian Wushuang said his name was Dao Yuanzi. He should be an expert from the eternal chaotic world. I don't know why he came to my hometown and set up the Great Formation. The formation should be called the Life-Devouring Formation. He wanted to refine all the living times in my hometown with it. But I killed him in the end. So all his treasure fell into my hands, including this blood-killing plate armor. Jian Wushuang was telling the truth, and Lei Chao nodded without suspicion. It's great that you got the treasure from killing him. You can continue to use blood-killing plate armor, but remember, don't get involved with Holocaust Sect. Otherwise, you are making yourself an enemy with all the cultivators in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries and the eternal chaotic world. Lei Chao exhorted. Jian Wushuang shook when he heard that. He found out from King of Venomous Worms that the Holocaust Sect was hated by everyone in eternal chaotic world. But he never thought that the experts in the eternal chaotic world would hate Holocaust Sect that much. Anything that was related to the Holocaust Sect would cause one to become the other cultivator's enemy. Tsk tisk, Jian Wushuang pursed his lips and complimented. One more thing, Lei Chao looked at Jian Wushuang. Inverse cultivation. Lei Chao said lightly. The moment Jian Wushuang heard the two words, his face tremendously changed, and there was a surge of emotions in him. Why? You find it strange that I can tell you're an inverse cultivator? Lei Chao said coldly. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded subconsciously. He was really shocked, because ever since he had started inverse cultivation, including the time he wandered in eternal chaotic world, it was the first time someone pointed out his identity as an inverse cultivator. Of course, in Tian Yuan Mystery Land, the expert who gave him the secret skill of Tian Yuan would be able to tell his identity as an inverse cultivator. However, the expert didn't reveal himself. Then, Lei Chao talked to him face to face. Of course, Jian Wushuang was surprised. Not just me. In the 10 cultivation sanctuaries, whoever studies souls and knows a bit about souls, such as experts who lit their soul power or prepared to light their soul power, could tell that it was a soul attack when you fought with Chen Bin earlier. Lei Chao said. Jian Wushuang shook. What Lei Chao said revealed that he had studied a little about the soul. You, a universe god in the first heaven, know a soul attack. Plus, your divine power is far beyond a universe god in the first heaven. How could an ordinary cultivator do that? Only an inverse cultivator, which is rare in the eternal chaotic world, an existence which could light up the soul power during a universe master state, could do that. Hence, I am sure that you are an inverse cultivator. Lei Chao said faintly. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had been trying very hard to hide his identity as an inverse cultivator. Back then, in Dayu world, because he passed through the inverse cultivation test. He had had no choice but the master of Dayu Palace, and Wu Tsang recognized his identity as an inverse cultivator. However, he didn't proactively tell anyone before. However, he never expected that there were so many people who could recognize his identity as an inverse cultivator with the aid of his soul within the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Inverse cultivation is very rare, especially rare for those who could pass through inverse cultivation test, almost one in hundreds of millions of years. Lei Chao continued. Chapter 1363, The Galaxy. Chapter 1363, The Galaxy. In the millions of years since our Creator founded the lineage of Star, we have embraced numerous genius disciples, but we've never received anyone practicing inverse cultivation. Lei Chao said, "So you are the first one. Now you have just passed the first round of the inverse cultivation test. After passing the second and the third, you will definitely make extraordinary achievements." Lei Chao knew about Jian Wushuang's potential. After Jian Wushuang passed the inverse cultivation test, he would become a top almighty in the eternal chaotic world, much more powerful than Lei Chao. Does anyone in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries know that you are practicing for the inverse cultivation test? Lei Chao asked. No. Okay, that's good. Lei Chao smiled, which was a rare occurrence. Keep it a secret from others. Lei Chao said, "Let's go to the lineage of Star, and I will report to our master about the inverse cultivation. He will make decisions." Jian Wushuang nodded. So they set out. They headed for the lineage of Star as quickly as possible. In order to save time on the journey from the East Royal Sanctuary to the Purple Moon Sanctuary, they were going to use a wormhole. Wormholes were only owned by powerful sects and tribes in the East Royal Sanctuary. Many tribes couldn't even afford it, but it didn't worry Lei Chao. By wormhole, they soon arrived at the Purple Moon Sanctuary. The Purple Moon Sanctuary was different from the East Royal Sanctuary. The East Royal Sanctuary owned as many as 6 pieces of land, each of which was home to countless talents. The Purple Moon Sanctuary, however, only had 4 pieces of land, but each land was far vaster than those in the East Royal Sanctuary, and the number of talents was higher. Among the 4 pieces of land, one was called the Star Land. The Star Land was home to the lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang was impressed when he heard about the Star Land. Everything in the Star Land was named with Star, which showed the dominating power that the lineage of Star had. And indeed, the dominant group in the Star Land was the lineage of Star. How powerful this lineage is! Jian Wushuang was amazed. After all, the creator of the lineage of Star was at the top amongst the almighty in the eternal chaotic world, the best of the best. Although King Luozhen is among the almighties, he is far less powerful than the creator of the lineage of Star. King of Venomous Worms added, "Moreover, it was King of Venomous Worms alone that united the Star Land. So you can imagine how powerful he is." Jian Wushuang felt stunned. Soon he had arrived at the base of the lineage of Star with Lei Chao. It was a vast galaxy. The galaxy was stunning and filled with numerous shining stars. "We are in the base of the lineage of Star." Jian Wushuang was amazed by the glamorous galaxy. How powerful could the lineage of Star be to occupy such a vast galaxy? I heard about this galaxy during the time I followed King Luozhen. The creator of the lineage of Star discovered the galaxy when he traveled to the eternal chaotic world and transformed the galaxy and moved it to the Star Land. Now it's said that the secret sect skills of the lineage of Star are combined with the galaxy. King of Venomous Worms said. "Wonderful." Jian Wushuang exclaimed. "Let's go." Lei Chao said. Jian Wushuang followed Lei Chao and went into the vast galaxy. As Jian Wushuang entered the galaxy, he felt the power explode. He was surprised, and he asked Lei Chao, "I can feel the unlimited, strong divine power here. Can I absorb this power?" Lei Chao said, "Of course. We are now in a divine power sea unique to the galaxy. The divine power will never be depleted here, and you could refill your power here anytime." "So, amazing," Jian Wushuang said. "Its power is more than that." Lei Chao pointed in one direction. Jian Wushuang then looked in that direction. In the galaxy, a 3-meter-tall exotic beast, Near them seemed to be playing. What is that? It is one of the exotic beasts born with power generated by the galaxy. We call them meta-beasts. They are valuable. Lei Chao explained. How valuable are they? As Jian Wushuang asked, a golden flash of light flew to the exotic beast quickly. That light is a cultivator, right? Jian Wushuang asked excitedly. Yes, a disciple from our lineage of star. Lei Chao answered calmly. The exotic beast who was playing saw the golden light and immediately fled rapidly. It couldn't escape from the cultivator with the golden light. As that cultivator caught the beast, and the golden light around her dissipated, Jian Wushuang saw clearly that she was a lady in a golden robe. The lady left, satisfied with her prey. A powerful cultivator. I bet this cultivator is far more powerful than Chen Bin, who I once fought with. Is she from the Star Palace? Jian Wushuang asked. No, she is just an ordinary disciple from the lineage of Star. Lei Chao answered calmly. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Chapter 1364, The Second Heaven. Chapter 1364, The Second Heaven. Only an ordinary disciple. Jian Wushuang felt overwhelmed. Only an ordinary disciple would already be that strong. Just how strong are the disciples of Star Palace? What is the disciple going to do with the meta-beast? Jian Wushuang asked. Meta-beast is a strange existence derived from the Milky Way. It is extremely intelligent, and it contains an enormous amount of meta-strength. The usage of meta-strength is extensive. It could be used to make pills, make a weapon, aid cultivation of secret skill. Besides, meta-strength is extremely nourishing for one's consciousness. Lei Chao said. As such, the disciples from lineage of Star often capture the meta-beast in the Milky Way to extract the meta-strength from their bodies for cultivation. After extracting their meta-strength, they would release the meta-beast. The meta-strength in the meta-beast's bodies would recover over a period of time. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded. Let's go. Lineage of Star's old lair is right ahead. Lei Chao continued to move forwards with Jian Wushuang, and they soon arrived before Lineage of Star's old lair. Looking at the majestic palace that stood before him, along with the large amount of buildings above the stars, Jian Wushuang was astonished. Lofty, magnificent. It was definitely one of the loftiest sects Jian Wushuang had ever seen. How many forces could place their old lair within the Milky Way in the entire eternal chaotic world, after all? Jian Wushuang, follow me. Lei Chao led Jian Wushuang towards one of the stars. He intentionally detoured from the buildings on the way. It seemed that he didn't want anyone to see Jian Wushuang and himself. In the stars, there was a huge cave dwelling which was formed entirely with special crystals. Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang walked into the cave dwelling. The moment they entered the cave dwelling, Jian Wushuang immediately saw the long-haired middle-aged man who sat on the stone bed like a statue before him. The long-haired middle-aged man had a natural manner. Yuan. Lei Chao spoke softly. The long-haired middle-aged man, who was like a statue, slowly opened his eyes, and a ray of purple light flashed like a purple gemstone. You have returned. The long-haired middle-aged man looked at Lei Chao, then at Jian Wushuang. This is the young man, Jian Wushuang, who passed the test that the palace master set up personally and became the disciple of Star Palace. Lei Chao nodded and introduced Jian Wushuang. The person before you is one of the 3 hall masters in lineage of Star. You can call him Hall Master Yuan. In the lineage of Star, the palace master and the other 2 hall masters are mostly cultivating in seclusion. Any matters will be decided by Hall Master Yuan. Greetings, Hall Master Yuan. Jian Wushuang bowed politely. Young man, there's no need to stand on ceremony. The long-haired, middle-aged hall master Yuan smiled and said, Lei Chao sent me a message earlier, and I already reported it to the palace master. The palace master told me to bring you to see him directly when you arrive in Lineage of Star. Follow me. See the palace master? Jian Wushuang was surprised. The palace master of the Lineage of Star was the founder of the Lineage of Star. He was the superior existence in the peak of the eternal chaotic world. The superior existence wanted to see him. Jian Wushuang, well done. You have been summoned by the founder of Lineage of Star. The other experts, including many real gods, didn't even stand a chance to meet him, but you get to see him the moment you step foot in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. TSK, King of Venomous Worms, teased. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly, but he followed Hall Master Yuan. As for Lei Chao, he stayed back in the cave dwelling instead of following them. In the depth of the boundless Milky Way, there was a cave dwelling. The cave dwelling merged into one with the Milky Way. If it didn't reveal itself actively, no one would notice the existence of the cave dwelling. Then, Hall Palace Yuan brought Jian Wushuang before the cave dwelling. The two of them didn't enter the cave dwelling, but stood outside. Hall Master Yuan bowed slightly at the cave dwelling and said, Palace Master, I brought the young man with me. An ancient yet thick voice broke the silence. The voice traveled lightly as though it was from far, far away. Young man, you're the one who passed through the test that I left in the star Foggy Sea? The founder of the Lineage of Star asked. Yes, Jian Wushuang replied politely. As expected, the founder of the Lineage of Star sounded melancholy. Star Foggy Sea, it has been so many years. Not long after I created Star Foggy Sea, I lost it at that place. I thought no one would ever find it, nor would there be anyone who could pass the test there, who knew you would pass through it successfully in the end, and you even found Lineage of Star on your own. Very good. Hearing what the founder of Lineage of Star said, Jian Wushuang was shaken. Which place? Star Foggy Sea. You kept it with you, or you left it in your hometown? The founder of Lineage of Star asked. I left it at my hometown, Jian Wushuang replied. That's good too. The founder of Lineage of Star kept quiet for a while before he spoke again. Your identity as an inverse cultivator, I already know. Inverse cultivator. It is really rare. Ever since I started Lineage of Star, I have never gotten any disciple that did inverse cultivation. You're the very first. Inverse cultivation, great potential. Once you pass the inverse cultivation test in the third heaven, you're destined to go right to the top, and the possibility of becoming an almighty is very high. However, the route for inverse cultivation isn't an easy journey. I already made some arrangement for you after I received Yuan's message. Your identity as an inverse cultivator shouldn't be exposed or publicized before you become an almighty or before you stand on the peak of the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Can't expose my identity as an inverse cultivator before I become an almighty. I refined a treasure for you in the past few days. Take it. In the cave dwelling, a ray of black light spurted out, and Jian Wushuang extended his hand to take it. He spread his palm and saw that it was a black bead that gave out a mysterious aura. This bead has just been refined. I have yet to name it. You can name it yourself. After you refine it, it will blend into your divine body. After that, there will be a tremendous change in your aura. You are just a universe god in the first heaven now. However, after you refine the bead, your aura will improve to the level of a universe god in the second heaven. You will then look pretty much like an ordinary universe god in the second heaven. Besides, the bead will cover your soul power. When you are fighting with the others, you can still use soul attacks. with the bead. Even an almighty who hasn't reached my level, or an almighty who purely studies the soul, won't be able to understand your actual situation. From today onwards, you must remember you are not a universe god in the first heaven, but the second heaven. Chapter 1365, Disciple from the Star Palace. Chapter 1365, Disciple from the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang felt surprised about the reminder of the creator of the lineage of star. That is to say, he had to pretend to be a universe god in the second heaven. At the same time, he was supposed to cultivate and improve his power, just like a universe god in the second heaven. After he passed the inverse cultivation test and became a real universe god in the second heaven, he would have to pretend to be a universe god in the third heaven. Yuan, please take care of him. You should especially remember that during his inverse cultivation test, no one can be present except you and Lei Chao. Yes, Your Majesty. Hall, Master Yuan nodded. Now you can leave. As the conversation ended, everything in the heaven fell into silence, and the palace disappeared from Jian Wushuang's eyes. You are quite lucky to get a treasure cultivator from our master in person. Hall, Master Yuan smiled to Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang held the black bead in his hands and started to absorb the power within it. When he finished, Jian Wushuang could feel clearly that his breath and power had changed. Now, even I can't imagine that you are just a universe god in the first heaven. Hall, Master Yuan smiled. Jian Wushuang was relieved. As the master said, I should keep my identity as an inverse cultivator hidden. And with this black bead, I'll definitely be able to disguise myself as a universe god in the second heaven in terms of both my divine power and overall strength. Jian Wushuang was satisfied. Then he returned to the palace of the Hall Master Yuan. Lei Chao was still waiting there. What? Lei Chao was shocked when he saw Jian Wushuang again. Why has he become a universe god in the second heaven? Hall Master Yuan then explained what happened to Lei Chao. Now I know why. But Lei Chao frowned and said, It is a good idea, but it will be difficult for you when you pretend to be one in the second heaven. Jian Wushuang was confused by Lei Chao's words. Hall Master Yuan told Lei Chao, please take care of him and help him in his second inverse cultivation test. Lei Chao nodded and didn't refuse. After leaving Hall Master Yuan's place, Lei Chao took Jian Wushuang around the numerous buildings in the lineage of stars. Along the way, Jian Wushuang met many disciples from the lineage of star. They felt surprised when they saw Jian Wushuang. Who is that universe god in the second heaven? I have no idea, but he is the disciple of the Star Palace. Wow, a new one. Every disciple from the lineage of star had their own token that showed their identity as an ordinary disciple or as one from Star Palace. Those ordinary ones could tell that the token of Jian Wushuang came from the Star Palace. That was why they knew Jian Wushuang's identity, even though they didn't know him. Jian Wushuang could feel that disciples were looking at him with envy and admiration. Why do they envy me? Is there a great difference between an ordinary identity and one from the Star Palace? Jian Wushuang was curious. Lei Chao didn't answer his question. Instead, he said, as you are going to spend a long time here, it is necessary that you know about the cultivation resources in the lineage of star. Jian Wushuang listened to Lei Chao attentively. He was eager to know what valuable resources the lineage of star had as the top leader of the Purple Moon Sanctuary in the 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Lei Chao started introducing them to Jian Wushuang. Our lineage of star has a long and brilliant history, and so we have accumulated numerous resources. For disciples of universe god level, the most valuable ones are real god Hall, Scripture Depository, and Reset Palace. Among these three, Real God Hal is the top, but only universe gods in the third heaven are allowed to use it. Though you are in inverse cultivation, you are still not eligible to enter until you pass the second round of the inverse cultivation test and become a real universe god in the second heaven. Scripture Depository is home to the 4 great secret skills in the lineage of Star, which are the foundation of our lineage. Among these 4 skills, secret skills of Star Palace are well known even in the eternal chaotic world. Reset Palace is where we cultivate our consciousnesses. Since you are good at soul attacks, you can go there for cultivation, before which you'd better catch several meta-beasts to absorb power when necessary. Those 3 places are very important, so only disciples from the Star Palace are entitled to use them. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Only disciples from the Star Palace were entitled to use those 3 great resources. He now understood why ordinary disciples envied him. There was indeed a great difference between ordinary ones and ones from the Star Palace. Apart from those 3, we also have 4 mystery lands and 9 shrines that are open to ordinary disciples. Though they are not as valuable as the 3 great treasures, they will also help a lot with one's cultivation, and many geniuses are eager for them. After a brief pause, Lei Chao continued. Besides, we have 3 cultivation places, namely Star Tower, Illusionary Mind Sea, and Supreme Tower for disciples to cultivate and test their power. Star Tower and Illusionary Mind Sea are similar to 9 Boundaries Tower and Inadvertent Dreamland, but of a higher level. Chapter 1366, Sword Star. Chapter 1366, Sword Star. Besides the most precious Real God Hall, Scripture Depository, and Reset Palace, there are 4 mystery lands, 9 palaces, and 3 training fields. This definitely lives up to the reputation of the lineage of Star. There are so many cultivation resources here. I wonder what the effect will be. Jian Wushuang was excited. Soon, Lei Chao brought Jian Wushuang to a corner of the void. There were stars before him. In the lineage of Star, disciples from Star Palace can take up a star as a cultivation cave dwelling. Jian Wushuang, you can pick one now, Lei Chao said. Use a star as a cultivation cave swelling? Jian Wushuang was shocked, but he didn't hesitate. His soul power swept out, and he noticed a star. That one, then, Jian Wushuang pointed at the star and said, "Let's go." Lei Chao brought Jian Wushuang to the star straight away. That star wasn't huge in size, but there was a continuous palatial architecture on the star. Right in the middle, there was a delicate-looking cave dwelling. Before Lei Chao and Jian Wushuang arrived at the cave dwelling, they noticed that there was a large number of people already standing before the cave dwelling. Most of them were women, and every one of them looked and dressed the same. The leader of them all was a woman who had a svelte body and a beautiful face. The beautiful woman had an elegant style and a rare beauty. The aura that she gave out was fierce, and she had obviously already reached the level of a universe god in the third heaven. Seeing Jian Wushuang's arrival, everyone before the cave dwelling, including the beauty who was their leader, bowed politely as they said, "Greetings, Master." Master? Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. The people before him were all universe gods. Among them, the leading beauty was a universe god in the third heaven, but they were referring to him as Master. These maids and servants are arranged for you. They will take care of your daily life while you concentrate on cultivation, Lei Chao said. This Jian Wushuang didn't know how he should react. He said, "I don't need any maids or servants. I can just cultivate on my own." Jian Wushuang. Lei Chao looked over. These maids and servants came to lineage of Star willingly. There are benefits for them when they work for Lineage of Star, when they take care of the disciples of Lineage of Star. You don't have to misunderstand them. To them, to be able to take care of the disciples of the Lineage of Star is definitely a great task. The benefits that they are taking is, of course, better. If you were to reject them, it would be a rather heavy loss to them. Jian Wushuang was stunned as he took a glance at the maid and servants around him. They did look worried, and were obviously concerned that Jian Wushuang would chase them away. Jian Wushuang had no choice but smiled bitterly and said, "All right, let them stay then." The maid and servants immediately revealed a joyful expression. "If so, you should cultivate well. This is a message token. If you run into any problems, you can look for me." Lei Chao passed him a token. "Thank you." Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy as he took the token. Then, Lei Chao left straight away. Jian Wushuang entered the cave dwelling with the maid and servants surrounding him. At the top of the cave dwelling, Jian Wushuang stood on a stone stool while he overlooked the maids and servants who stood politely. "Besides you, everyone can leave," said Jian Wushuang, pointing at the beauty with the svelte body. After they heard Jian Wushuang's instructions, the maids and servants bowed and excused themselves. Only the beauty was standing there still. "What's your name?" Jian Wushuang looked at the beauty. "Master, I am Qiuyu." The beauty replied politely, "Qiuyu, you don't have to call me master from today onward, nor will you refer to yourself as a servant. It's rather uncomfortable for me," Jian Wushuang said. He knew that he was just a universe god in the first heaven, and with the cover-up, he was just a peak universe god in the second heaven. But Qiuyu was a universe god in the third heaven. She was much stronger than him in terms of power. A person who was stronger than him was referring to him as master. So, politely, Jian Wushuang, of course, found it rather strange. This, Qiuyu muttered to herself, and then nodded. "Then I shall call you Mr." "That's fine." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. "Qiuyu, let me ask you, is what Lei Chao said real? Did all of you came to be a servant in Lineage of Star willingly?" Of course, Qiuyu laughed. Lineage of Star is the real ruling force of the Starland. Regardless of wisdom or ability, they are at the top in the eternal chaotic world. Such a sect naturally has tens of thousands of geniuses and experts dying to join. However, the threshold to join Lineage of Star is too high. One must be a genius among geniuses. Like myself, even though I am universe god in the third heaven, I am not gifted enough. So I am not qualified to be a disciple of Lineage of Star. As I can't be a disciple, there's only another way to enter Lineage of Star, which is to become a maid, a servant. Although maid and servants are one level lower and might be put to great inconvenience, we are able to receive cultivation resources. Plus, Lineage of Star treats us, maid and servants, quite well. Under normal circumstances, as long as we stay in Lineage of Star for more than 10,000 years, we will receive a chance to enter the 9 shrines. Stay 10,000 years, and we get to choose a secret skill from the first level of Shrine of Secret Skills to cultivate. Stay for 1,000,000 years, and we get to experience the 4 mystery lands once. That treatment is much better than many core disciples in weaker sects in Starland. Plus, if one were to be lucky enough, if one's master were easy to talk to, he or she could ask for pointers from their master. How lucky would that be? Qiuyu obviously had nothing to complain about being a maid in Lineage of Star. On the contrary, she was rather positive. "I see." Jian Wushuang nodded silently. He understood that any cultivator who was an expert but wasn't gifted yet wouldn't be happy about being ordinary, like Qiuyu, as they couldn't join and be nurtured by other sects. They might as well become a maid in Lineage of Star. They might stand a higher chance. Oh, yeah, mister. Now that you are the master of this star, you can name this star. Then we maids and servants of the lineage can tell each other where we serve. Chiu, you said. Name. Jian Wushuang suddenly paused, and then smiled. My name is Jian Wushuang. I have used the word sword in my name, and I am good with swords. As such, from today onwards, this star shall be known as Sword Star. Chapter 1367, Star Tower. Chapter 1367, Star Tower. After Jian Wushuang asked Chiu, use something about the lineage of star, he went to visit the vast building complex in the Sword Star. He wanted to know more about the numerous cultivation resources in the lineage of star. He chose to go to the scripture depository and the reset palace, which only allowed disciples from the Star Palace. In the complex, "Hi," Jian Wushuang greeted someone. He was an ordinary disciple from the lineage of Star. He was thin. He turned around when he heard Jian Wushuang's greeting. He immediately felt the existence of Jian Wushuang's token as a disciple from the Star Palace. "Nice to meet you, brother. I am Chu Yang." The young man bowed to Jian Wushuang politely. Jian Wushuang was surprised. "You came here not long ago, right?" The young man looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded. In the lineage of Star, ordinary disciples should show respect to disciples from the Star Palace regardless of how powerful he is or how long he has joined the lineage. Chu Yang explained, smilingly. Jian Wushuang now understood. "Is there anything that I can help you?" Chu Yang asked. "Could you please take me to the scripture depository and the reset palace? I am still unfamiliar with their locations." Jian Wushuang asked politely. "Okay, please follow me." Chu Yang accepted the request delightedly. Only after a while, they arrived at the scripture depository. "Now we are in the scripture depository. You may enter, and I will wait for you here." "Thank you very much." Then Jian Wushuang entered the scripture depository. Neither books nor tokens were stored in the scripture depository. The only thing that Jian Wushuang discovered was 4 secret rooms. In front of the 4 secret rooms sat a white-haired elder. He raised his head as Jian Wushuang approached him. "Are you the new member?" the elder asked. "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "There is a rule here. Each disciple from the Star Palace can cultivate 1 secret skill in the scripture depository with no condition. But if they want to cultivate a second one, they should meet a certain requirement. I can feel that you have already cultivated the secret skills of Star Palace, so you are not eligible to cultivate others." The elder said. Jian Wushuang then continued to ask him, "So what requirements should I meet in order to cultivate the second secret skill?" Among the 3 cultivation places in our lineage of Star, the Star Tower is a place where we test our unique skills and sword principles. There are 3 levels in the tower, and you only have to pass the 3rd one. "Okay, the Star Tower." Jian Wushuang nodded and left. Chu Yang was still waiting outside the scripture depository. "How was your visit?" Chu Yang asked. "I had cultivated the secret skills of Star Palace before I arrived at the lineage of Star. So now I have to pass the 3rd level of the Star Tower in order to cultivate the second secret skill." Jian Wushuang answered. Chu Yang said, "Well, the Star Tower is not far from here. I could lead you there." "Good idea." They went to the Star Tower. The Star Tower was a splendid purple gold big tower with 6 levels. "Good luck to you, brother," Chu Yang said. Jian Wushuang started to ponder. Lei Chao told him that the Star Tower was quite similar to the 9 Boundaries Tower, but was on a higher level. Jian Wushuang passed the 14th level of the Nine Boundaries Tower, but he was unsure which level he could pass in the Star Tower. Jian Wushuang entered the first level with hope in his heart. On the first level, he saw his opponent, a cold middle-aged man. The man waved his sword when he saw Jian Wushuang, saying, "You are good at swordsmanship? Let us see who is the winner." Jian Wushuang took out his Blood Mountain sword, and he became excited. "Come on!" The man yelled, and he stepped forward. Then he waved his sword to Jian Wushuang. This attack was appalling, full of coldness and darkness. Jian Wushuang generated his power and started to wave the Blood Mountain sword. Dragon roar! The power of the sword exploded. But when the two forces of sword collided with each other, bang! Under the attack, Jian Wushuang's sword power totally collapsed. The attack from the man directly hit Jian Wushuang's body. Bang! Jian Wushuang's figure was blasted out. Outside the Star Tower, Chuyang was waiting. He was wondering how many levels Jian Wushuang had passed. He thought, though brother Jian Wushuang is a new member here and hasn't cultivated with the resources of the lineage of Star, he must be powerful as a disciple from the Star Tower. So, I guess he'll pass at least the second level? But passing the third level will be difficult. He may only be able to pass the third after cultivating for a long time in the lineage of Star. But as Chuyang was thinking, he saw a figure blast out of the Star Tower. The figure was Jian Wushuang. What happened? Chuyang was shocked. He was blasted out soon after entering into the tower. In such a short time. Indeed, a very short time. Within just 10 breaths, Jian Wushuang was blasted out of the tower. Jian Wushuang was as shocked as Chuyang. It was just the first level, and it's more powerful than I imagined. The man's swordsmanship defeated him easily within a very short time. Jian Wushuang had utterly failed. Chapter 1368, Reset Palace. Chapter 1368, Reset Palace. Rank 3 unique skill. It's only the first floor, but this person performed a rank 3 unique skill, and it's an advanced rank 3 unique skill. Jian Wushuang was astonished. Only the first floor, and he was defeated. If he wanted to pass through the third level and cultivate the second secret skill in Scripture Depository, it'd be a joke. That's not right. Even though in Lineage of Star is filled with top geniuses, the test of the Star Tower didn't have to be that difficult, right? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. A universe god in the first heaven went to the first floor of Star Tower, but the opponent on the first floor performed a rank 3 unique skill straightway. What kind of sorcery was that? Unless Jian Wushuang suddenly thought of a possibility, unless the Star Tower didn't treat me as a universe god in the first heaven, but the second heaven, Jian Wushuang's face grew strange the moment he thought of the possibility. I finally understood why Lei Chao said that a universe god in the first heaven, pretending to be a universe god in the second heaven would be at a disadvantage. I guess that's why. The training field in the Lineage of Star was set according to the cultivator's level. The starting point for a universe god in the first heaven and a universe god in the second heaven was definitely different. Take the Star Tower, for instance. If it were to be other disciples who were universe gods in the first heaven who would go to the first floor of Star Tower, the opponent on the first floor would only perform an advanced rank 2 unique skill at most. If Star Tower only treated Jian Wushuang as a universe god in the first heaven, he naturally could pass through the test easily. However, the crucial part was that Star Tower took him as a universe god in the second heaven. I only created a peak rank 2 unique skill then. However, the opponent from the first floor in Star Tower only could perform advanced rank 3 unique skill. It is a few levels different. In other words, I am far from passing through the first floor of Star Tower, Jian Wushuang sighed. However, he didn't think it was unfair for him. He was an inverse cultivator, after all. Comparing an inverse cultivator to an ordinary cultivator, the starting point itself should be a level higher. A universe god in the first heaven that did inverse cultivation was really treated like a universe god in the second heaven in the eternal chaotic world. Senior. Chuyang walked over and looked at Jian Wushuang in suspicion. He found it strange and asked, Senior, which floor in Star Tower were you in? This Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. To be frank, I didn't even pass the first floor, and I am far from passing. You can't even pass the first floor. Chuyang creased his eyebrows. A disciples of Star Palace couldn't even pass through the first floor in Star Palace, and he was far from passing. What was going on? One must know, in Lineage of Star, even with those ordinary disciples, more than 90% of them could pass through the first floor, and some could even pass through the second floor. Would it be because he was careless and he didn't put his full ability to play at the very first moment? That's why he was defeated. Chuyang thought to himself. It seemed to be the only explanation he could find. Otherwise, a disciple of the Star Palace who didn't even pass through the first floor of Star Tower was definitely a joke. Senior, why don't I bring you to the Reset Palace and take a look? Chuyang said. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded. Chuyang then brought Jian Wushuang to Reset Palace. In Lineage of Star, only disciples of the Star Palace were qualified to enter the Reset Palace. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate, but stepped foot into Reset Palace straight away. The moment Jian Wushuang entered the palace, he could feel a shapeless force greet him. This is an assault of consciousness. No, not only consciousness, it also contained magic, and even a mind devil. This, Jian Wushuang suddenly beamed. He had cultivated for 10 years in Tianyuan Mystery Land back in Snow Kingdom. In those 10 years, he had gained a huge reward, but Tianyuan Mystery Land was mainly about the assault of consciousness. However, the Reset Palace not only had assault of consciousness, it also contained magic and mind devils. Jian Wushuang could also manipulate the strength of magic and mind devils. It was obviously much more outstanding compared to Tianyuan Mystery Land's sole assault of consciousness. I heard long ago that there was a place in the Lineage of Star that trains and nourishes consciousness. I finally get to see it. It's really extraordinary. King of Venomous Worm's voice was heard in Jian Wushuang's head. The higher-ups in Lineage of Star really know how to nurture their disciples. They started to think about how to improve their disciples' strength of consciousness when they were just universe gods. They even created Reset Palace for this purpose, and also the test in Illusionary Mind C. They are paving a way for their disciples. King of Venomous Worms complimented. Jian Wushuang could hear what King of Venomous Worms said. He heard from King of Venomous Worms that to become the top expert in the eternal chaotic world, which was to become an almighty, one had to pass a barrier. The barrier was to light up his soul fire. How difficult it was to light up soul fire. Just like Jian Wushuang, who was an inverse cultivator, he lit up his soul fire when he was a universe master. However, an ordinary cultivator put in all their effort and paid a huge price, and it'd still be rather difficult to light up their soul fire. The inability to light up their soul fire meant the inability for them to take the leap towards the rest of their lives. To light up their soul fire, consciousness was the crucial element. The consciousness was required to be trained step by step since it was weak. It was required to improve bit by bit, especially during their time as universe god. The training and improvement of consciousness was extremely important. Due to this, Lineage of Star intentionally created Reset Palace especially to improve and nourish their disciples' consciousness. Their intention was to lay a great foundation and pave a way that leads them to take the greatest leap. Even though the chance was slim, they could at least try. The Reset Palace was useful for me to improve my soul power. If I were to cultivate here, my soul power would definitely improve tremendously. I reckon it wouldn't be long until I reached the level of a universe god in the third heaven. Plus, there's help from the meta beasts. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining brightly. When Lei Chao talked about Reset Palace back then, he said that he could try to catch a few meta beasts and use the meta strength them to nourish consciousness. Then he would improve even more greatly. Go and catch meta beasts. Jian Wushuang immediately headed outside of Reset Palace. When Jian Wushuang met Chu Yang outside of Reset Palace, he clarified his intention with Chu Yang. Chu Yang, I shall capture meta beasts on my own. It will not be necessary for you to lead the way, Jian Wushuang said. If so, I shall excuse myself, Chu Yang said. Sorry for the trouble. Jian Wushuang thanked him again. Chapter 1369, Catch the Meta Beast. Chapter 1369, Catch the Meta Beast. After saying goodbye to Chu Yang, Jian Wushuang went to the Star River. He was searching for meta beasts. There's one. Jian Wushuang soon found a meta beast, but it was tiny. The beast was just half a meter tall. Obviously, its energy had been absorbed by disciples in the lineage of Star, and the beast hadn't recovered. Jian Wushuang wouldn't get enough energy by capturing it. A useful meta beast should be at least 1 to 2 meters tall. Go on. Jian Wushuang continued searching. The Star River was vast. Jian Wushuang couldn't go through the whole river in only 1 month. After an hour, Jian Wushuang had found another one. This one was almost 3 meters tall. There you go. Jian Wushuang approached the beast quietly. But as he approached, the beast detected him and turned around, staring at him. This meta beast was born in the Star River a long time ago. It had been captured by disciples in the lineage of Star multiple times, knowing how dangerous its predators were. As soon as it saw Jian Wushuang, it immediately ran away. It ran so fast, like a flash. You can't escape. Jian Wushuang followed it. Whoosh! He and the beast rushed quickly through the Star River. Jian Wushuang was surprised about the beast's speed. Jian Wushuang couldn't catch up with it, even though he had tried his best. It's time for me to use some tools. Jian Wushuang then used his consciousness to generate his blaze quicksand gourd, from which a tremendous amount of sand rushed out. The rushing speed of the sand was way faster than the running beast. Soon those sands covered the beast and lowered its speed. In that way, Jian Wushuang narrowed the distance with the beast. Soon, he caught up with the beast. Jian Wushuang said delightedly to the beast, I will not kill you. Just give your energy to me. The beast seemed to understand what Jian Wushuang said. It turned around and looked at Jian Wushuang with great hostility. Beasts born in the Star River were docile, but they would become aggressive when faced with danger, especially after being caught by humans several times. The beast roared. The beast stopped running and rushed to Jian Wushuang. It raised its front feet and intended to attack Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang hit the beast with his fists instead of using the Blood Mountain sword in order not to injure it. Bang! After an explosion, the Star River around them went dark. Jian Wushuang was blasted out. It took him a while to stand stably. He was shocked by the power of the beast. What happened? While Jian Wushuang was blasted out, the meta beast was not injured at all. He had failed to pass even the first level of the Star Tower. He had felt better for the simple reason that he was regarded as a universe god in the second heaven, but now he had even failed to catch a meta beast. Even a beast was more powerful than him. I once saw a universe god catch a meta beast easily, so I have always thought that it would just be a piece of cake for me to catch one too, but the meta beast was also shocked. It had always believed that humans were so powerful, but this time the predator seemed weak. I want to try again. Jian Wushuang rushed to the beast again, and the beast also rushed to him. They were going to collide and battle again. But at that very moment, two figures came, a man and a woman. The man was slightly fat, and the woman was the one that Jian Wushuang had seen catch a 3-meter meta beast easily before. "How many beasts have you caught?" The man asked the woman. 12. "And you?" "Roughly the same as you." The man smiled. "I will go back after catching several more." "So will I," the woman said. As they were talking, they heard a bombing sound. "What is that?" "That bombing sound only exists when two people are fighting together. Who dares fight in Starland?" The man frowned. "Let us go and have a look," the woman said. As they went to where the sound was coming from, they saw Jian Wushuang and the beast. Chapter 1370, Too Weak. Chapter 1370, Too Weak. Not any cultivator fighting a fierce battle, but a disciple of the lineage of Star is catching a meta beast. That is a disciple of the lineage of Star. The black-haired man and the lady in a gold robe looked at the Milky Way before them. They saw Jian Wushuang, who was fighting ferociously with the meta beast. They also felt the existence of the token that signified his identity as a disciple of Star Palace on Jian Wushuang. See the aura of the token. He is really a disciple of Star Palace. But why is he so weak? The black-haired man creased his eyebrows and said, "Weak, too weak." At least from what they saw, Jian Wushuang was merely showing the fighting power of an ordinary peak universe god in the second heaven. But in the place where geniuses gathered, like lineage of Star, any ordinary disciple who was a universe god in the second heaven would be much stronger than Jian Wushuang. Would it be that he didn't give his all? The lady in gold robe thought. Maybe the black-haired man nodded too. They could only think that Jian Wushuang hadn't given his all. Otherwise, a disciple of Star Palace who was a universe god in the second heaven who couldn't even fight a 3-meter meta beast would definitely be a joke if the story spread. But they didn't know that Jian Wushuang didn't hide his power, but he really couldn't do anything to the meta beast. He had already performed various measures. He even used sword principle with Blood Mountain Sword and also soul attack, but it didn't cause any damage to the meta beast. The meta beast is born by the Milky Way. They are extremely intelligent, and their consciousness is related to the surrounding Milky Way. My soul attack has nothing to do with it. Relying on my swordsmanship alone, I could barely suppress it. If I wanted to extract its meta strength alive, it would be impossible. Jian Wushuang quickly understood, and he didn't waste any more time. He stopped and let the meta beast leave. A 3-meter tall meta beast. I'm afraid I can't do anything to it now. I could only go look for smaller meta beast. Jian Wushuang sighed, and then continued to search at the surrounding Milky Way. Jian Wushuang noticed the black-haired man and the lady in the gold robe afar with his soul power, but he was unconcerned. "Junior, did you see that?" The black-haired man creased his eyebrows slightly. The lady in gold robe nodded solemnly. He looked at the meta beast escape from his hand. Was he really unable to do anything with the meta beast? The earlier sight, did you record it? The black-haired man asked. Yes, the lady in the gold robe said. Great, let's return. I'd like to see what's up with this disciple of Star Palace, the black-haired man said. All right, we are almost done with catching the meta beast anyway, the lady in the gold robe agreed. Then they returned to the old lair in the lineage of Star. On the training field that was formed within the nebula, a few figures were gathered. The few of them were all ordinary disciples in lineage of Star. One of them was obviously stronger by one notch compared to the rest. Quan, the black-haired man, and the lady in the gold robe appeared on the training field after returning from the Milky Way. Didn't you two go to catch a meta beast? Why did you return so soon? The disciple with the strongest aura on the training field, Quan, wore a malicious smile. We originally wanted to catch a few more meta beasts, but we run into something interesting on the way, the black-haired man said. Oh, what is it? Tell me, Quan smiled and asked. Don't panic. Let me ask you first. Is there a recent new disciple of lineage of Star? The black-haired man asked. Yes, Quan nodded. Not long ago, Mr. Lei Chao brought a disciple of lineage of Star back personally. The disciple of lineage of Star is like us. He's also a universe god in the second heaven. As for his name, I think he's called Jian Wushuang. Exactly then. We ran into him in the Milky Way earlier, and he happened to be catching meta beasts, the black-haired man said. He just got to lineage of Star. He knew the meta beast was useful. If he wanted to catch a few for cultivation, there is no big deal. Quan creased his eyebrows and said, If so, of course, there's no big deal. However, the black-haired man smirked and looked at the lady in gold robe. Junior, take it out. The lady in gold robe nodded and then took out a token. She allocated her consciousness, and the recorded image in the token was played before every one of them. A mirror image? Quan, and the others were shocked, but they looked anyway. In a short time, Quan and the others who watched the recorded image looked puzzled. How is that possible? A disciple of lineage of Star, who was a universe god in the second heaven, couldn't do anything to a 3-meter-tall meta beast. Isn't this ridiculous? Jian Wushuang, didn't he hide his ability? The few disciples on training field gasped. From what they saw, the power that Jian Wushuang showed during his fight with the meta beast was really too weak. Quan squinted his eyes and looked at the black-haired man and the lady in the gold robe. Are you sure that he used all of his power? The black-haired man shook his head. We only saw him fighting with the meta beast, but we couldn't tell if he gave his all. However, if he wanted to catch meta beast, he can't just let a 3-meter high meta beast leave before his eyes, right? Just then, everyone, what are you doing here? A figure walked over. He happened to be the disciple that had brought Jian Wushuang around earlier, Chu Yang. Chu Yang, you came just in time. Quick, come and take a look at the image. The black-haired man pulled Chu Yang over to watch the image. Chu Yang's eyebrows were tightly knitted after he watched. Would Jian Wushuang really be so weak? Chu Yang muttered. Chu Yang, you meant really weak? Did you suspect his power before this? The black-haired man said. To be frank, I brought Jian Wushuang to Star Tower once, but Jian Wushuang flew out almost instantly. He didn't even pass through the first floor of Star Tower. Plus, when I asked if he was too careless and didn't put his all to play, he said that he gave his all and he really couldn't pass through the first level. Chu Yang said. He didn't even pass the first floor of Star Tower. All the disciples at the scene were shocked. 6th floor in Star Tower. One floor was more difficult than the other, but the first floor was the easiest. Even they managed to pass through the first floor. It seems that we didn't guess wrong. Jian Wushuang, who just came to lineage of star, was really weak, but he became a disciple of Star Palace, a role that all of us desired. The black-haired man's eyes became fiery red as he spoke. Chapter 1371. Luo Quan challenged Jian Wushuang. Chapter 1371. Luo Quan challenged Jian Wushuang. It is all a matter of luck. Jian Wushuang just joined the Star Palace by luck. Why did Hall Master Yuan and Lei Chao allow Jian Wushuang in? Many disciples felt wronged and got angry. Stop. Chu Yang reminded the arguing people, the long-time reputation of our lineage of star depends on our value for real ability rather than luck. I think Hall Master Yuan and Lei Chao admitted Jian Wushuang in for certain reasons. Jian Wushuang must have something unusual. Let's see whether he can withstand the test. A man called Luo Quan said, "What do you intend to do?" Chu Yang looked at Luo Quan. Luo Quan asked people around him, "Do you guys know where Jian Wushuang lives?" A disciple said, "In a star called Sword Star." "Okay, let's go there and meet him." Luo Quan said. Then 7 disciples went to the Sword Star. Jian Wushuang was still in the Star River. He had been in the Star River for 4 days, during which he had met many beasts, but some were difficult for him to conquer. He had caught only 4, each of which was less than 2 meters tall and relatively weak. Jian Wushuang caught and kept them. They are enough for me to cultivate in the Reset Palace for a while. So he planned to go back. After absorbing the power of 4 meta-beasts, he went back to the Sword Star. Chiu, you went to him when he arrived. Finally you have come back, Master. What happened? Several guests have been waiting for you for a long time. Chiu said. Jian Wushuang frowned. Luo Quan and other disciples now appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Hello, Brother Jian Wushuang. I am Luo Quan. Hello. Those ordinary disciples all bowed to Jian Wushuang. After all, Jian Wushuang was a disciple from the Star Palace. Jian Wushuang smiled to them. What are you coming for? I have competed with the most of the universe gods in the second heaven, and I like competing. May I invite you to compete with me? Jian Wushuang said, Okay. Luo Quan frowned and was a little bit worried. He thought Jian Wushuang had accepted the invitation because he was confident of winning. But in fact, Jian Wushuang only cared about whether he could learn and improve his abilities. He was eager to fight with geniuses from the lineage of Star. Anyone who is qualified to be a disciple from the lineage of Star must be a genius. Jian Wushuang felt excited to have the opportunity to battle with them. Come on. Luo Quan wore a pair of blood-red gloves and was staring at Jian Wushuang, ready to fight. Jian Wushuang also took out his Blood Mountain sword and started to fight. Bang! An extraordinary power was generated by Jian Wushuang. Divine Shadow! The power of Jian Wushuang's sword exploded. A flash of light soon multiplied into thousands of flashes. Those flashes all rushed to Luo Quan. The Divine Shadow was one of the 3 peak rank 2 unique skills that Jian Wushuang had created. Rank 2 unique skills. In response, Luo Quan fought with his palms with red gloves. Bang! 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 Luo Quan's power collided with Jian Wushuang's sword, pushing back the Blood Mountain sword. Luo Quan generated more power. His palms became more strong and powerful, forcing Jian Wushuang to step back. Show me all of your power. Luo Quan murmured. Come on. Blood Knight. Blood Knight was the most powerful skill that Jian Wushuang had. He tried his best, and Luo Quan rushed toward Jian Wushuang and generated even more power. Boom! A strong soul power directly hit Luo Quan, but didn't affect him too much. Bang! Luo Quan stretched out his sharp claws, as if to tear the whole universe apart. The claw reached Jian Wushuang. Though Luo Quan didn't use all of his power, Jian Wushuang was hit hard. He became pale and started bleeding. The battle ended. Is your power really limited to this level? Any universe god in the second heaven in a small sect would be better than you, let alone disciples from the lineage of Star. How could you be a disciple from Star Palace? You don't deserve it. Now Luo Quan showed little respect to Jian Wushuang. The others were also indifferent. After all, they only recognized capability. They would respect Jian Wushuang only if he was powerful enough. But it turned out that Jian Wushuang was weak. You still have 800 years before the selection battle for the Star Palace. If you are still weak by then, give your position in the Star Palace to me. Luo Quan said indifferently as he walked away.